Hello, everyone. You might immediately notice that there is a little bit of a background noise, and I immediately start looping over myself. Actually, let me just listen to myself for 1 second. If the background noise that I've loaded is a bit too loud, then please do tell me so, because it's basically impossible for me to monitor what the audio sounds like from my background without also listening to it over my headphones and then it looping over my output, which is just a little bit irritating. Botrix has correctly joined the channel. I thought I removed that. How on earth do I get that stupid thing out of my way? Oh, that's annoying. Anyway, gentlemen, I'm very grateful that you could join me tonight. We have a decent number of things to talk about tonight. First of all, I am really, really, really tired today because I have been working very hard. Did you kidnap Big Ben on something or something? I'm not sure what you're talking about, Danny D. I don't get the reference. Yeah, I am very tired because I have consistently been doing, well, an awful lot of gardening the past couple of days. Last year, I started doing gardening, and I really enjoyed it, but it was fairly late in the year, so I wasn't actually able to do much of it before the weather turned, and for the next, 4 months or so, it was pretty much rain every single day. And it was very, very upsetting to just sit and watch as all the weeds and stuff started growing outside. And you see, the thing is, if anybody reads, well, I haven't updated it in quite some time, but one of the major problems, unfortunately, is that my mother is the primary gardener of the family because she used to be a professional gardener. And in fact, she was, I won't say too much because some insane person might somehow be able to, I mean, I don't particularly care about being doxxed, but basically, my mother actually worked as a gardener for the royal family at one point. So yeah, she was known to be rather skilled, and she's the one that has kept most of this valley in a state where it is flourishing. And unfortunately, now that she has cancer, she has to cut down on an awful lot of her activities due to the whole chemotherapy impacting her and everything. So I've started to take over where she's left off, and I've been doing my best to exterminate both the perennial sunflowers and also nettles, and neither of them are neither of them are easy to get rid of. Mike Linus Rex, did you hear about those Republican senators who threatened to punish the International Criminal Court if they try to charge Bibi? I'm guessing you're not talking about Busujima Bibi. If so, I strongly congratulate her on her managing to establish connections to the US government. I sincerely hope she is not a psyop, though. Sorry to hear that. I mean, it's been a thing for 2.5 years at this point, almost 3 years actually, and she's still going fairly strong, but I mean, it's an unpleasant thing, but I can deal with it, so I'm not panicking about it or anything. But I have been, you see, we have several acres of land at our disposal where we live at the moment, which is one of the reasons why we do not want to get evicted. And we have been carefully cultivating that land for nearly 22 years at this point, and it has primarily been my parents who have been doing that, but assuming that we are able to stay here, which we hopefully will, then most of that will fall onto my shoulders, and as such I have been going out of my way to try and make sure that my own gardening skills are up to snuff. And apparently they are, because I showed some of the pictures to my friend a few days ago. What I do always is I take before and after pictures of my work. And he actually showed them to a groundskeeper. And the groundskeeper asked is this guy available to be hired? Now, unfortunately, my friend lives in America. So unless it happens to be a job which is willing to fly me out to America and back again, I am not going to be becoming a groundskeeper anytime soon. So please give me 1 second. My chair might creak loudly because I just realized that my seat cover has become loose, so I need to tug it back into place. Yes, this is a very old gaming chair, and to protect it from the rigors of constant use, I have a nice thick covering on it, so it does not become like the kind of pictures of gaming chairs that you see on the internet that have been excessively used. I don't understand why people don't just put a cover on their chairs. It saves so much hassle. I mean, I do have to push it back into place every now and again because it's somewhat improvised, but it's literally kept this chair, the actual seat of this chair, completely intact for years and years. And this is a second-hand chair, too, so it's not as if it was in perfect condition when I first got it. But yeah, please put a seat cover on your chairs. It will literally make them last 20 times as long. Israel. Oh, Israel. Netanyahu. I can't pronounce his name. Netanyahu. I think that's how you pronounce that particular name. Netanyahu. No, it's not. There's no T. Netanyahu. I'm sorry. You won't see me voice acting for any of those how to pronounce YouTube channels anytime soon. Netanyahu. Yahoo! Yes, I'm not going to do that. Proctor buying pre-skid marked gamer chairs. It's literally a family hand-me-down. Unfortunately, nobody. I know for a fact that nobody has ever sat on it bare-arsed for whatever reason. I've sat on it a couple of times bare-arsed when I can't be bothered and it's a really hot night, but not without a seat cover. You're welcome for that information. Let me just look up again. Plant-pilled garden maxer. I will say, it very much amazes me. I've kind of transformed my life in the last 3 weeks or so, because for starters, I've cut down massively on my carbohydrate intake. I don't think I've... Well, I have had a couple of like nutty, doughy snacks every now and then, but I've completely cut bread out of my life completely. I haven't had a slice of bread in like 3 weeks. The only carbohydrates I get, or main carbohydrates I get, are at dinner time, if my family happens to be having something like noodles and so on, or rice. Apart from that, I've replaced it almost entirely with lean meat, which is vastly nicer. I vastly prefer that. Because I've never had celiac disease, because celiac I think is a lifelong condition, but when I was young, my parents thought that I had a gluten allergy for a very long time, because every time I ate bread, my stomach would become upset. And over time, that's more or less gone away. Like, I can have bread, I can have pastry, I can have gluten, and I can have all that, and it won't hurt me. But I've noticed that since I've cut out bread, I've actually had substantially more energy, and I've had substantially less problems with things like muscle fatigue and muscle pain, because I've been trying to get a lot more exercise done as well. And I've found that since I've substantially increased my protein intake, I'm drinking protein shakes as well, and also having, as I said, lots of lean meat that is high protein but relatively low calories. And I found that my muscles have just responded by losing all of that severe fatigue states that they used to go into after I exercised, because I could do quite substantial amounts of exercise with decently heavy weights. I think my heaviest weight set is like, I think 6 kilograms. I forget how many pounds that is. Trying the carnivore diet. Proctor, what do you think of the Enya takeover of TVA? I'm not sure what you mean by Enya takeover of TVA. We have always had a substantial portion of... That reminds me, I actually have not posted my live stream on TVA itself yet. Please give me 1 second to actually do that. I really do need a checklist. Also, just 2 questions. Can people hear the BGM, not the BGM, but the the fireplace sounds in the background? And if so, are they of decent volume? Should I turn them up or turn them down? Because, as I said, I can't actually listen to them while I'm live, and the way I have my audio set up is very, very strange. So it's very difficult for me to tell, because I have all my audio settings cranked up to maximum, so my PC volume is like 100% at all times. And what I do is I individually tune each audio program, each program that I have that produces audio, to individual levels, so I can listen to multiple things at the same time, and then I can just absorb multiple things at the same time. I really hate having this everything on the same volume and just going, no, that's too loud, but now that's too loud. No. I prefer to gently massage the settings of everything. Oh dear. Oh, just 1 second. I'm just looking on TVA before I post anything, and somebody posted about Jeannie Mercury, aka the lizard, the lesbian lizard, the dom lesbian lizard. Yes, it's low, but perfect for a fireplace. It's subtle, that's good. Excellent. I'm very glad with that. Kilograms to pounds. I think it's like, kilogram is 13 pounds. Yeah, so 13 pound weights. Which is pretty low overall, as, I mean, I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder, but I can do like 60 reps, well, 2 sets of 30 reps with those. Quite fairly easily now, which is far better than I could when I started. So yeah, and it really makes me reflect on how easy it is to just change my life when I want to. I see people that struggle with changing their lifestyle an awful lot. And I find that it's usually the case that for the first week or so, sometimes even as little as like 3 or 4 days, it's extremely painful to do. For example, when I first... because I used to be very much a grazer when it came to food. I tend to eat things. I tend to eat things throughout the day. As in, I'll nibble on... My overall calorie intake is not enormously high. Like, I'm not gaining weight or anything, but... I would have, like, you know, a biscuit here, a snack there... I'd have one, like, we have one main meal a day in this house. We have one cooked meal a day, and anything else is pretty much up to us. And so I'd like every single cup of coffee, I'd have something with it. And I have like 4 or 5 cups of coffee every day. So that's the equivalent of like maybe 4 or 5 different biscuits, and not very much, but you're talking like an extra 300-400 calories easily. Because I'm shocked at how, now that I've actually started counting calories, I'm utterly shocked at how much I can eat that isn't junk food, that I can just replace with better food that is far more filling and satiating. Like, I had a fairly large, like, protein yogurt, I think 2 days ago. It was like a rice pudding protein yogurt. And I was like, this must be at least 250 calories. It's got to be. Like, it's really filled me up. I feel really good afterwards. So it's got to be a minimum 250 calories, maybe even 300. I looked in the package, less than 190 calories. I was like, are you joking me? I can have 2 pieces of shortbread, and that together is 180 calories. I've just eaten something that feels 6 times as filling, and it's actually 10 calories less than the snack that I would have a week ago and not even feel as if I was even partially full up. 6 weeks no meat due to Orthodox Lent has wrecked me. I'm happy I can eat some again, gonna stock up on a lot. I mean, yeah, I would never... Proctor has a cup of what? Does Rika... No, trust me, I am not going to be having my last cup of coffee anytime soon. I am a caffeine addict. Now, I will say I don't drink energy drinks or anything like that. I think the average energy drink has something like 3 or 4 cups of coffee worth of caffeine in it, so my 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day is still less than the amount of caffeine would be in an energy drink. And even though I do have sugar with it, it's still less sugar than a single bottle of Coca-Cola. It's genuinely shocked me how much I can change my diet and still feel perfectly satisfied but also be eating far higher quality of food as well. And it really feels very good. And I'm really trying to have as much protein in my diet as possible. I'm protein maxing. You're trying to get swole for Kirsche. You can't fool us. Let me just relate to you a rather interesting conversation that I had with my incredibly good friend Alex a couple of days ago. So I asked him on Discord, what do you think motivates a man who already earns more than enough money to live about as good a life as he possibly could want, to then spend very large amounts of time and effort constantly earning even more? And he replies to me, it depends on the man. It takes most men somewhere on the order of 20 years to get to that point, and they have to sacrifice most of the stuff that makes life worth living to neurotypicals. As such, the selection process is for the greediest, the power-hungriest, and men who are genuinely family-orientated and believe, mistakenly, that their families need that surplus money more than they need the paterfamilias. A lot of them do it because they hate their home lives. They find their wives insufferable because they married their mums, who were insufferable enough that they fell into money management. Their children to be ingrates, and work to have supplanted all the hobbies and recreation they used to enjoy. It's their escape, the one thing in this world that they're good at, and, yeah, sad, many such cases. There's an attitude amongst the best and the brightest of the business world that dollars are an abstract scoreboard, as opposed to the currency in which normal people transact their existence. As such, they justify playing to try and beat their friends, the same way they play golf or go skiing, or any of the other richy sports they enjoy, because the idea of retiring or pivoting or to something more relaxing fills them with apathy, boredom, or contempt. I think it's the old Puritan work ethic inverted for satanic purposes, using greed, fear, and insecurity to lash at their backs for so long that once they've made it, and the lash master has retired behind them, they keep scourging themselves, just because it's what they know and how they function best. Now, I thought this was quite insightful, and more or less the kind of response that I'd expected from him. But then, after, I tend to ask him the kind of questions that he enjoys then going out and trying to get more immediate data and information on. And so he goes out and he asks a bunch of his business friends, and he tends to be friends with people that are actually decent businessmen as opposed to soulless corporatists. And he says, I asked a number of men who met this definition why they still work. And so I ask, what's the overall response? And he says, so far, 80% of men that I've asked what motivates them in business have said either my wife or my daughter. I ain't gonna lie to you, it's been more blackpilling than a decade on the internet. Guys who have always seemed to be in good quality, non-toxic relationships have their wives holding their noses to the grindstone. And yeah, I responded to this by saying, I'm definitely not fidgeting nervously in my seat or anything like that. Because, as Thrang said earlier, I just can't help but notice. I can't help but notice how so much of... I keep telling myself it's just because I've hit 30. I hit my 30s during COVID, and I was pissed off that the early years of my 30... Well, I'm 32 this year, so I am not going to be falling into the grave or passing into 40 anytime soon. But it really annoyed me that I hit... the COVID denied me my late 20s and very early 30s. And so I keep telling myself I'm only really starting to seriously expand my horizons in terms of my work, exercise, physical health, etc. Because I'm in that part of my life which is supposed to be your golden years, the years of maximum production. And then I also track it and to things like Kirsche getting very visibly aroused at the sight of somebody being able to crush an apple with their bare hands. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe there is a slightly less sophisticated reason as to why I suddenly find it perfectly acceptable to be doing large amounts of exercise and large amounts of practical work that I previously found to be either beneath me or just didn't see the point of. But I mean, it could be much worse. It could be much worse. I know a guy who does that with the apple. He must never meet Kirsche. Give me 1 second. I've been playing around with an almond for a while. I will now eat said almond because I have finished playing around with it. That's a nice almond. I really like candied almonds. I like almonds as a nut as well. They're very tasty. I will get this beautiful lady moist. Honestly, at this point for the poor woman, I think just the knowledge that somebody is not gay in her life would just turn on the waterworks right then and there. Given how low she's been forced to make her standards from trying to date in New England. He owns a Vector on the Kirsche shirt. She knows him as Mr. Vector owner. I need to kill this man urgently. I need to choose the right partner. I don't want to end up like my dad, who is a broken shell, who doesn't care about anything beyond work and sleep. Let me adjust my microphone. There we go. Because my mother is a delusional iPad-obsessed woman child. I mean, yes, I am. Let's hypothetically assume that I had a serious chance with Kirsche. I definitely picked a perfect partner to work alongside me in the garden, or or carefully tend to livestock alongside me. That's definitely the kind of lifestyle that she would be highly interested and invested in. Why am I being beeped? Why are people beeping me from inside my server while I am live? Oh, in fairness, why does Discord just sometimes not put me into streamer mode? This is very irritating. Allow me to just set myself into streamer mode so I stop getting pinged. Streamer mode, activate. There we go. Why am I being pinged with the sight of a... Here's one for you. Okay, what is this? What is this? One momento. I've messed up my tabs. Help. This is dreadful. There we go. Oh, you absolute bastard. What is this?
What's that made of?
Glass. Rock. Shrek. No. Glass. Royal. Shrek. Shrek. Glass. Glass. Touch purple. Touch purple. Touch purple. Touch purple.
Hey, purple is my favorite color.
What do you have to say?
Royal.
No chewing.
No chewing.
What's this?
Shrek. Glass. Wow. That's no wow. This is color black. Metal. Metal. Royal. Paper.
He's got good dictation. At least you were starting off this mental illness episode on theme. Of course it is. What do you mean? Why are you saying of course it is? I mean, purple is definitely my favorite color. Although I do like, I mean, I'm a colorful person. I really enjoy... It's funny, my clothing is universally black or navy blue. I am completely and totally... And it has no logos or anything like that. I dress in the plainest style possible. I hate logos on things. I hate decoration on clothing. I want my clothing to be as simple and functional as possible, and say as little as possible. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that we have this... let me just increase the size of the chat for a second. No, that's not what I meant to do. Come on, which is this layer? There it is. Like, if you look at this, if you look at the chat for a second, you can see there is this tip goal thing. And I find it really annoying because yesterday I attempted to get this to work in a way that would show specific goals, because I see Kirsche and I see other streamers have like, oh, donate this much so that I can get this and so on. And I can't figure out how the hell to do that within Stream Elements. Stream Elements just doesn't seem to have that kind of capability, and I'm not sure why. It's very irritating, because I would really like to set up some tip goals for things such as like the maintenance fees for the website, and also things like better streamer equipment, or possibly, you know, custom art assets and so on. The art goat is in fact working on a new PNG actually, so you might be seeing a Proctor Zakharov 2.0 PNG at some point, but the thing is, it is very difficult to bully her with money to get things done faster. If you wave a dollar bill in Denna's face, like, that just immediately triggers her PTSD. I think she may have a genuine phobia for for money and success. In fact, let me just look this up. Is there a fear of money? There's actually a clinical diagnosis for fear of money, often the fear of managing money, specifically chromatophoobia. Chromatophoobia. It can lead to symptoms like anxiety, excessive worry, excessive behaviors, or even physical ailments. Chromatophoobia. Oh, that's hilarious. I need to send this to Denna immediately. Give me 1 second. I need to send this to Denna on Discord instantaneously. We found what's wrong with you. Did she owe art to the furry mafia at some point? She's never drawn furry art. I sincerely hope so. She's a Fujoshi, so she's not really into furries as far as I can tell. They just adjust things. There we go. That's the chat back in the proper place. Is 2.0 somehow even more manly and heterosexual? I hope that it's going to be very, very, very heterosexual. She's one of the artists that Kirsha rants about. I mean, the thing is that Denna is not what you might call a professional artist. Like, she is very much an amateur, but I mean, she has serious talent. If Denna could actually manage to get her life in order and actually get off her ass and do things like accept commissions and PayPal and stuff, she would definitely get paid a decent amount of money, because, like, Denna has a very good style. Her style of drawing is very nice. I really like her style. The way she draws eyes and the way she has that kind of those soft, smooth pastel colors and so on. I really like that art style, and it's rare, because I don't actually like pastel very much. I'm much more a kind of solid color person, but her style is just very nice. So, again, if she could manage to actually, you know, as Ahara just said, get her shit together, then she'll be a good artist, and she will definitely get money for it. And I keep telling her, look, you're not having any luck making money in California, not California, Cucknadia. So you should just get it over with and start doing commissions online. You will make as much money, I would say, and it will be, you won't have to do transport costs or anything. In fact, talking about California, give me 1 second, because I can go on to the first tab that we have, which is from the People's Voice. Canada to imprison anyone who has ever posted hate speech online. Just make sure, yep, we're on everything right. The Trudeau regime has introduced an Orwellian new law called the Online Harms Bill C-63, which will give police the power to retroactively search the internet for hate speech violations and arrest offenders, even if the offence occurred before the law existed. Now, this is a very important thing, because I don't know if many of you have studied law in any capacity, but one of the foundations for criminal law is that you can't punish people retroactively. If you sign a new law into being, then it is standard and accepted practice that you then cannot use that law to retroactively punish people for things they did before that law was signed into effect. Because that just doesn't make sense. It just is completely irrational. I could see potentially some cases of it being valid. For example, for some reason, a formerly lawless country has just created a new constitution or something, and it criminalizes the act of robbery or murder, then yeah, I could see you needing to retroactively apply that so that people who have committed murder under a lawless state can then be brought to justice without having to wait for them to commit more murder. But that's basically the only concept that I can think of where retroactively applying a new law is in any way acceptable. Trudeau is a tyrant. Why is this a surprise to literally anyone? Now you see, the thing is, I don't actually agree with the idea that Trudeau is a tyrant, because I recall watching some interviews with the Canadian truckers when the whole Canadian trucker protest was being a thing. And several of them were pretty high up on the political food chain, or at least decently connected political analysts. And a lot of them were saying this thing. They were saying basically, and I don't remember exactly what they were saying, so if I get details wrong, I'm sorry. But they were saying basically, people outside of Canada have this impression, and a lot of people in Canada too, don't get me wrong. They have this impression that Trudeau is this evil dictator. But Trudeau is really just a milksop everyman, in our opinion. That really, it's the people behind the throne that are the most important ones. It's like when you look at the US and you look at Joe Biden. Like, do you seriously think that Joe Biden is the political mastermind behind 3/4 of the things that he talks about? And the man is patently senile. The man is very obviously off his rocker. He stumbles, he falls, he mumbles, he has no idea who he's talking to. He's either senile or he is some kind of unfathomably powerful political genius who is deliberately faking being senile in order to very occasionally be sensible when he wants to be. Those are the only two options. It's yet another virtual signaling law that will get no real use or be shut down shortly after the Constitutional Court or Canada's equivalent shuts it down. If we talk about the political masterminds behind Western civilization at the moment, we get banned from YouTube. We definitely get banned from Twitch, according to Kirsha. You can't talk too much about the silly hats and the merchant people on Twitch. Definitely not, which is why I'm probably not going to be using Twitch anytime soon. Some people have suggested that I use Rumble. I'm not sure if I should try Rumble. Give me 1 second, please. I need to take off my top because it's starting to get rather warm. Now, that was George W. Bush. Biden is just demented. I do genuinely think that Biden is demented. I think that the moment that Biden is tossed out of the office, then he will go completely quiet. My prediction for when Joe Biden is out of office is that we will hear almost nothing about Joe Biden until he will suddenly be declared to have died unexpectedly of a heart attack or something similar. And then a few years later, there will probably be some, after it stopped being relevant, because notice, these leaks and these data breaches and these classified releases always happen years after they would actually be of any use, like the whole Hunter Biden thing being proved completely correct years after it was relevant. But it will be, like, proven somehow that White House doctors stated that Biden was incapable of holding office and were ignored. There'll be some whistleblower that comes forwards with documents that say that Biden was declared officially senile behind the scenes or something. That's my prediction. They will call you anti-Semitic, but they will never call you a liar. Like JFK info dump a few years ago that everybody ignored, I actually have not even really heard much about that. If people, maybe I should look that up at some point and talk about it. Getting naked on stream. No, I'm sorry, I'm not quite that ripped yet. When I am properly muscled up, then I'll get naked on stream. I don't know, I've never really seen... I'm not the kind of person to send people nudes or anything, but at the same time, I don't know, it's strange. Maybe it's just my European perspective. I just don't understand why people care quite so much about nudes on the internet. Because to me, it's like, unless... Like, a naked body is just a naked body. It's what you do with it that makes something erotic. Maybe it's just the fact that I grew up in a fairly large family, and the small fact that I live on a farm, and by the age of 5 or 6, I knew about the birds and the bees just from looking at how chickens made more chickens. Unless it's a funny nude. Yeah, I just do not understand. Like, I called her out on Twitter because it was this woman who was she was partially involved with the Torakura stuff. And she was on Twitter recently, and she's a VTuber as well, but she's also a whore. And she was saying, oh, it's dreadful, it's disgusting how men will just slide into my DMs and talk about sex. It's horrible to me. It's horrible. I feel objectified and I feel used whenever men just are like, hey, baby, you wanna fuck? And the thing is, she literally posts nudes of herself on Twitter fairly regularly. And she's not a beautiful woman, put it that way. She's a fat woman, and she is ugly. Well, she's not ugly, but she could use a lot of she could do with a lot of self-care, put it that way. And I'm just like, and she, under her posts, she says, oh, I post more nudes every 500 likes. Get 500 likes and I post another nude. And like every single one of her very, very uninteresting nudes has been like 1,000 plus likes. And I just am like, why? Why? Who cares? You can literally Google nude women right now with safe search even on Medium, and you will get thousands of results. Why do people care about these 5 out of 10 in the best light women posting nudes of themselves on social media? Why do they get attention? Like, objectively speaking, Pornhub exists. There are 9 out of 10 women on Pornhub using professional cam rigs and everything. Why on earth would you ever want some ugly Twitter whore's selfies as your masturbation material? It's literally the case of, you know, if you like deliberately going to a McDonald's when there's a 5-star restaurant right next to the McDonald's and the prices aren't even that much higher. I just don't understand the value proposition there. And again, I don't watch porn. I try my best to limit my contact with NSFW. That's a reason why there's no NSFW channel on my Discord and why I refuse to host things like nudity and so on TVA or hentai or any nonsense like that, and I have a very strict policy regarding potential NSFW stuff. But I'm like, you know, if I wanted to delve into the realm of debauchery, there are objectively so many ways which I could get quality debauched content, and I wouldn't have to be aimlessly scrolling Twitter with my dick in my hand, going, oh wow, that selfie that somebody took in a bathroom mirror with a last generation iPhone. Oh man, that really makes me hard. No, that's just ridiculous. That's just stupid. I feel like I know the answer, but I don't know how to say it. We don't know. We don't need no goon cocoon on groom. I had a girl I was attracted to and she sent me some pinups type shots. She was not the best looking girl, but the fact that I knew her made it hotter. I mean, yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think I don't think that anybody should send nudes over, you know, images on the internet, because that's just asking for that to be held over your head if things go sour, or even if your accounts get hacked or whatever. But at the same time, yeah, if a woman is actually going to put herself in an exposed position for the express purposes of titillating you in particular, because she loves you and she wants to do that, then yeah, that's obviously going to be very hot, and that's going to feel pretty empowering as somebody who feels worthy of that, assuming she's not a literal whore who sends it to every single person on her contact list. Sometimes it's less about them being hot and more about the fact that you have some sort of emotional connection to them, which is where the whole parasocial aspect comes into play. I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I don't like it when, well, I don't care. I don't care if Kirsha has hentai drawn of her or stuff. It's because that I feel like I am relatively close friends with her. I don't want to look at her as an object of sexual desire when it feels pointless. It's like if I ever had a chance to actually date her in that capacity, then yeah, it would be logical that I would want to view her in a sexual light. But at the same time, if we are literally just friends on the internet separated by 5,000 miles of ocean, viewing her character that she is not in real life, well, to a certain extent, as an object of sexual desire and fascination feels like a weird, overly current year parasocial fixation that I just don't have any desire for. It's kind of weird. Yeah, exactly. It's just why it's just like I would not be interested in hentai of any anime character that I've watched, because if I've watched an anime and I really enjoy the characters' emotional struggles and I really empathize with them and I feel as if they are a fulfilled and realized character, I'm not then going to go on, say, how do you pronounce it, like Gelboru or whatever, and type, their name and my favorite kinks into the search bar, because to me that's just a complete... It trivializes the emotional connection you had with that character and the material that they were involved in. I can separate the character from the person, which is why I don't mind watching anime characters. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that it's wrong. It's just that the way that my brain is wired, I don't feel that same way, really. And I've got yet another bloody ping on. The women in Groom Court would scare everyone else away from an MSW channel. No Proctor thirst traps. I would, but only if it's vanilla stuff where they're nice and happy and doing it with someone they love. I mean, yeah. Depends on the character. Do not lewd Miku. You mean like Hatsume Miku or something? I mean, to put it this way, I don't look for a hentai of, say, somebody like Irie, but yeah, that woman was made for the sheets. That's a character design that was made for the sheets, shall we say? Where on earth are my tabs? I'll may as well complete this living article. This new bill is aimed at safeguarding the masses from so-called hate speech. Revolver News reports, the real shocker in this bill is the alarming retroactive aspect. Essentially, whatever you've said in the past, can now be weaponized against you by today's draconian standards. Historian Dr. Muriel Blave, goodness me, that's a name, Blave, has weighed in on this draconian law, labeling it outright mad. She points out how literally it spits in the face of all Western legal traditions, especially the one about only being punished if you infringed on a law that was valid at the time of committing a crime. Exactly. An online ex-user recently shared that his wife wrote a letter to every Canadian MP concerning this chilling bill, and only one MP responded. He posted MP Rachel Thomas's reply, which many are now calling one of the most insightful and well-crafted summaries on this alarming issue. That's fairly long, but I will read it anyway. Thank you for writing to me regarding Bill C-63, the Liberals' latest rendition of their online harms legislation. While the federal government has touted this bill as an initiative it's always to protect children. It does little to accomplish this noble cause and a great deal to inhibit freedom of speech. Permit me to outline the bill in more detail. There are 4 key parts to this bill. Part 1 creates the Online Harms Act. Part 2 amends the Criminal Code, Part 3 amends the Canadian Human Rights Act, and Part 4 amends an act regarding respecting the mandatory reporting of internet child pornography by persons who provide that internet service. I will focus on the first 3 parts of the bill in the rest of the letter. Part 1. The bureaucratic arm will consist of 3 entities, the DSC, the DSO, the DS, and... That's a great naming system. Just have 2 organizations that both have the same acronym. Hey honey, I want to report. Do I have to report to the DSO or the DSO? These new offices are made up almost entirely of cabinet appointees and are given powers to receive and investigate complaints concerning harmful content, collect data, and develop more regulation. In other words, they can do anything they like, pretty much. The chairperson of the Digital Safety Commission will be voted on by Parliament, aka an entirely captured institution with only the most feeble of controlled opposition available. The Digital Safety Commission may investigate complaints and hold hearings regarding violations of the Act. The Commission may act with the power of the federal court and may authorize any person to investigate compliance and non-compliance with the power of the federal court. That is extreme. That is basically saying that they can wield the exact same powers as the judiciary branch. Ombudsperson in Canada. Is Canada even real? I didn't even notice that, actually. I didn't even notice that. Ombudsperson. Oh, that's insane. That is just absurd. Ombudsperson. Thank you for pointing that out. My eyes just kind of glazed over that because I'm just not used to reading that level of insanity. Do I have any more coffee left? Oh, I have a tiny bit of coffee left. Nice. Penalties for violating an order of the Commission or hindering anyone they authorize depend on whether a regulated service or individual commits the violation. The maximum penalty for a violation is not more than 8% of the gross global revenue of the person that is believed to have committed the violation, or 25 million, whatever is greater. Holy shit. Setting up a bureaucratic arm will do little to nothing to protect children. The last thing our system can handle right now is a stack of new complaints. It can't even handle the existing ones. Yes, just look at Scotland and how its hate bill worked out, where they tried the exact same thing and the system was overwhelmed with something like 50,000 complaints within 24 hours. Part 2. C63 creates a new hate crime offence that will make any offence under the Criminal Code or any Act of Parliament an indictable offence and punishable to life in prison if the offence was motivated by hatred. A definition of hatred is introduced, which is defined to mean the emotion that involves detestation or vilification and that is stronger than disdain or dislike. There includes a clarification that the communication of a statement does not incite or promote hatred for the purpose of this section solely because it discredits, humiliates, hurts, or offends. I mean, okay, that's slightly less insane than I thought it could be, but not by very much. Furthermore, the bill increases the punishment for an offence, so there was already an offence. There was already a punishment. I think somebody did say earlier there was a punishment. Advocating genocide, basically this is a anti-nasty, say nasty things about Jews and get arrested bill, to imprisonment for life. The current punishment is up to 5... What? So, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of trying to process... I'm sorry I've been so silent, but I'm trying to process this. So Canada, in Canadian criminal law, you could already be charged with a hate speech offence under very vague and stupid definitions, but yeah, I expected that. The punishment was up to 5 years, which, you know, is awful and dreadful, but at the same time, it is at least in line with the idea of punishment. And I don't know, it's not in line, but, you know, in perspective, it's somewhat in perspective with other similar laws, I would say. But this now allows people to be imprisoned for life if they advocate genocide, which is a meaningless sentence. How do you advocate genocide? Like, you know, what am I supposed to say? You know, am I advocating genocide if I say something like, I think Hitler had a point? Is that advocating genocide? Am I advocating genocide if I say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free? Is that advocating genocide? Because it implies that no more Jews would be in the area of Palestine? So be quiet of your views or go to jail. That's basically what it seems. Canada is going to be building gulags in the Yukon. Don't worry, 25 mil Canadian is like £5. Oh, that's like the chairperson you're starting to see nowadays. And at least chairperson is a slightly easier, normaler thing to say. I mean, I could understand saying chairperson. Bureaucracy at its finest. Yes, this is EU/WEF technocracy based, exactly. I don't think we should have men in women's bathrooms equals advocating trans genocide. I have unironically seen that stated before, so yeah, I can definitely see something like that happening as well. Alarmingly, a peace bond is created for fear of hate propaganda offense or hate crime. This will allow a person to seek a court-ordered peace bond. What is a peace bond? If they reasonably fear that someone will commit a hate propaganda offense or hate crime against them in the future. If you've watched the movie Minority Report, you know how scary this is. I have actually watched Minority Report. What is a peace bond? Search. In Canadian law, sorry about this slight tangent. In Canadian law, a peace bond is an order from a criminal court that requires a person to keep the peace and be only in Canada. Only in Canada could you literally be given an order to be a good boy. Only in Canada could a criminal court give you a piece of paper that literally says you must be a good boy now. No naughty. No being naughty. No being naughty. Peace bonds often have other conditions as well, such as not having any weapons or staying away from a particular person or place. So basically, it's a more faffy way of being a restraining order. I see, and are based on the lesser burden of proof of civil law. Oh, good grief, Canada! You absolute what an absolute. So it's like being out on bail but retarded. 2 + 2 = 5. War is peace. Magdalenus Rex, I don't think children should be taught about transgenderism is now transgenocidal rhetoric, and you go to jail for life and your kid will be trooned out as spite. Yeah, burden of proof. What burden of proof? You're guilty until proven, well, you're never proven innocent. Like, in these kind of situations, you're never innocent. You're automatically guilty, and if you get proven innocent, then that just means you were a clever boy and were able to fool the courts, and they need to have more legislation to convict you properly next time. As this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionately in favor of, fair and blind justice, because I don't think that you should ever prejudge. It doesn't matter how obvious the crime is. It's either a case that everybody has the right to criminal representation, and if you don't give that, if you prejudge, then you may as well just admit that your system has no basis in reality, and what sensitive souls, and I mean that to those that report what could happen without any proof. Yeah, I mean, it's literally, you can't do it. In fact, sorry, I've just finished my coffee. It's like in Scotland, where at the moment you can accidentally bump into a gay person in the street, and you can say, "Watch where you're bloody going," to a gay person that you bump into in the street. That gay person then has full legal right to go straight to a police station and file a hate crime report against you, because you saying, "Watch where you're bloody going," could be construed as a hatred of gay people. If that sounds stupid, no, it's not stupid. That is literally the law in Scotland right now. I remember when Green Day came out with American Idiot, I imagine they're either twice as smug or feel like regards right now. It's just so awful. It's just so completely contrary to the idea of sanity, basically. Part 3. The bill reinstates Section 13 of the Canadian Human Rights Act, which empowers officials at the Canadian Human Rights Commission and CHRT to make subjective determinations as to what forms of expression constitute hate speech. So in other words, as literally exactly like the Scottish system. And they may also decide on remedies, including fines. This will allow any individual or group in Canada to file complaints with the CHRC against users who post hate speech online, with an accused facing fines of up to 50,000 Canadian dollars, aka about 375 euros. The legislation defines hate speech as content that is likely to foment detestation or vilification of an individual or group of individuals on the basis of... In other words, the content doesn't necessarily have to directly express vilification. It only needs to be assessed as likely to vilify someone by a human rights tribunal. Section 13 is a punitive regime that lacks procedural safeguards and rights of the accused that exist in criminal law, which is literally exactly what I've just been saying. Truth is no defense, and the standard of proof that will apply to Section 13 is balance of probabilities, not beyond reasonable doubt as exists in a criminal case. As you have rightly pointed out, Parts 2 and 3 of this bill are a direct attack on freedom of speech and will have a significant chilling effect, as people fear the possibility of house arrest or life in prison. Margaret Atwood has gone so far as to say that C-63 invites the possibility of revenge accusations. Yeah, and this is precisely what happened in Scotland. Because in Scotland, when they signed into law a bill that criminalised all sorts of hate speech things, what happened instantaneously was that tens of thousands of people all across Scotland phoned up this new hotline, and they said, we would like to file a hate speech claim against our current SNP representative. I'm not sure if it's a prime minister or whatever. Humza Yousaf, because Humza Yousaf has stood up in the UN, I think, and he has said, I hate the white people in my government. Because Humza Yousaf, obviously, that's a very Scottish name. First Minister, thank you. Yeah, Humza Yousaf has now resigned, but he was the First Minister of Scotland and the First Minister of the SNP party. And he has stood up in the UN and he has said, I hate white people. Unironically, unambiguously. There is no other way to construe what he said. He said, I hate the white people in my government. And, of course, 50,000 people all phoned up and said, this guy is obviously in violation of the law that he just signed. And it got to such a point that the Scottish government actually gave out briefings to the people who ran those hotlines and the police departments for a script that they would use to dismiss these claims. Yes, that is the official policy of the UN. It checks out. Head of Scottish National Party can't stand the Scottish nation. Yeah, isn't it curious how England is currently ruled over by a whole bunch of people who are not English, who are not Anglo-Saxon, and who constantly express hatred and loathing for their own country that they're supposed to be governing. It's funny that a week or so ago, there was this video on Twitter about... Let me actually see if I can find it. Give me just 1 second, please. Twitter... elected this is the new elected representative of Britain, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is it. Yeah, so I'm gonna play I'm not gonna play all of it, but paste and go.
Israel has launched one of the... So right at this very minute, Israel has launched one of the biggest attacks against the civilian population that we've seen for many years. Now, they're going to use the pretext of the fight back by Hamas fighters, or supposedly Hamas fighters, this morning. Now, remember, the situation in Palestine, and especially the situation in Gaza, it's an open-air prison. It's the biggest concentration camp the world has ever seen. Millions of people have been rounded up into a tiny area. They're living on top of each other. They've been forced to live off scraps that the international community sometimes donates to them. Now, the dignity of an indigenous population, we haven't seen being stripped away in this way, just like the Europeans did to the Native Americans, or how the Europeans did throughout the colonies.
And as people say, this is the new elected representative in Britain, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the video he posted on the morning of October 7th. Britain, what are you doing? And I listened to this whole thing. You get the gist of what he's saying. And the thing is, I then sat back and I thought to myself for a moment, you know what? I'm perfectly okay with this. Because what he is saying is actually more rational than the madness of the people that are supposedly on the opposite side who are supposed to be against this kind of thing. This man just gave me a more coherent argument for his position than I have ever heard from the Conservative Party, from the SNP, from any of those people. Why exactly am I supposed to be angry about this? I mean, I'll be upset. I'll be upset that he's obviously not, concerned about, he's not talking about the British welfare or anything like that. But at the same time, I'm like, what right does anyone, like, say, Michael Elgort or whatever, what right does he have to say, oh, this is dreadful and terrible that this kind of person is being an elected representative of, the opposing party, when the ruling party is just as bad? Because it's laughable pro-terrorist fiction. No, it's not. This is literal truth. This is literally, like, Palestine is an open-air prison. There's just no denying that. And man, I remember when the Europeans made the Native Americans march the Trail of Tears. Not going to be great when they start imposing their culture over yours. What culture do we have that is worth defending? This is the question that I've asked. Like, what culture does Britain have that is worth defending? What role models does it have that's worth defending? Like, what? I see nothing worth defending in Britain at the moment. Like, British culture, it's a joke. It's pathetic. I don't care. I don't see why anyone would care. They've destroyed all of their own monuments. They've destroyed all of their own cultural institutions. They've rented out the government to whoever pays the most. I don't have any pride in my country. I don't have any pride in my nation. Yeah, beans on toast, what? There's nothing that would inspire me to stand up and defend my nation. Absolutely nothing. Well, you had culture until the strip mines in the 60s showed up, along with idiots like Dawkins and Fry. Yeah, that is the cultural legacy of my nation at this point. People like Dawkins and Stephen Fry. There ain't even the possibility of Charles saving the days. He's just as much of a globalist puppet. And ironically, understands why Brits have sympathies for Mosley, even if I'm no fascist. Yeah, and look at the vilification of men such as Winston Churchill. Because, like, Winston Churchill was not a particularly wonderful person, but he was obviously a patriot, and he had very strong cultural views. He had a very strong understanding of culture, and he had a great respect for culture. There's not one person, the only person that I know in British politics that I have any level of respect for whatsoever is George Galloway, who has that lovely saying about about Labour and the Conservatives, that they're both two cheeks of the same arse. As the only person in all of British politics that I have any level of respect for whatsoever. Dawkins and Fry were the perfect weapons to destroy your morality and religion. Yeah, I have no respect for the secularist society that inhabits Europe right now. A lot of people say, oh, it's dreadful that the Muslims are replacing everybody in the West. Why shouldn't they? They're being replaced because there is nothing to hold out against them. All the great old institutions are dead and gone. He's clown parroting the very most rock-bottom, low-IQ, left-hard propaganda talking points imaginable he heard from California college professors. I mean, no. Like, that's just objectively wrong. Like, if you look at the history of Palestine or Israel, there's a few interesting things that you might start to notice very quickly. And, let me actually just look at something very quickly. Yeah. I'd highly recommend anybody who wants to look at to actually look at the root cause of the problems in the Middle East should look at the Balfour Declaration, which I will just quickly. Yeah, which is from 1917. The Balfour Declaration was a public statement issued by the British government in 1917, during the First World War, announcing its support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, then an Ottoman region with a small minority Jewish population. The declaration was contained in a letter dated the 2nd of November 1917 from the United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Lord Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community, for transmission to the Zionist Federation of Great Britain and Ireland. The text of the declaration was published in the press on the 9th of November 1917. Immediately following, and this was because Britain happened to be at war with the Ottoman Empire. Now, this is really my problem with the whole, and everything. If you look at the history of the Tories, they were founded as an anti-capitalist party that wanted to punish factory owners for making cheaper goods available for more people while landlords lost money. Yeah, but there's need to be a revival from the bedrock on up, but I don't know if anyone or group of people could lead to fulfillment. I mean, yeah. There's reasons I have certain opinions on certain things, but yeah, maybe I will do a certain stream at some point about issues in the Middle East, because I'm literally currently in the process of researching a lot of stuff, and again, people like Glenn Greenwald, who I have such a massive amount of respect for, is one of the main people who I recommend for people to actually look at and get a feeling on the issues in the Middle East. And people like, what's his name? John Mearsheimer. The trouble is, I'm terrible with these names. John Mearsheimer, I think. Yeah, John Mearsheimer. Like, the works of John Mearsheimer are also very good. John Joseph Mearsheimer, an American political scientist and international relations scholar. So John Mearsheimer, Glenn Greenwald, both two excellent examples of people that I highly recommend anybody look into if they want to actually understand geopolitics on any real fundamental level. There's a few others as well, but I won't delve into them and distract from the topics of these videos too much. You should stream on Rumble and Odyssey for the long-awaited Jewish question stream. I'll post his name in chat because his name is just impossible for me to pronounce. Because it's obviously it is not a name that I'm used to. There, pin message. Is that working? There we go. Greenwald has a checkered history when it comes to truthfulness. I've literally never known Glenn Greenwald to lie about pretty much anything. The powers that be wanted to kick the Jews from their lands and sold to the Jews a prison where they would be safe, their ancestral land. Problem is the place was already full of people. And that's not a bad summation of it, to be perfectly honest, but there's a lot more intricacy in it. Let's get this guy off my feed. Because again, I don't support Palestine, I don't support Israel, I don't support Britain or anything, but again, it's a very simple question that I would ask anybody who wants to talk about replacement and, like, what is there left? What is there left? What is there to support in any of these countries? I see nothing. I see countries that have utterly and hopelessly abandoned their cultural traditions, and entropy is happening. They're being replaced, and they deserve to be replaced, because they have got nothing. They have absolutely nothing. But let's get back to this article. Where was I on this? Here we are. Now that's... Furthermore, it's alarming that the bill enables individuals to anonymously file complaints with the Canadian Human Rights Commission against those they deem to be posting hate speech. If found guilty, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal can impose fines of up to $70,000 and issue takedown orders for the content in question. Additionally, the tribunal is granted the authority to shield the identities of complainants and prohibit defendants from disclosing this information if uncovered. In essence, accusers of hate speech will have their identities safeguarded, while those accused face significant financial penalties. Yes, and basically the thing that brought all this on was revenge accusations and risk thought crime. Because as we've, going back to the root of what I was saying, literally earlier, is that whenever these laws are introduced, they very quickly become gerrymandered by one side or the other. For example, in Scotland right now, you're only allowed, even though the text of the bill states that any form of racism by any group towards any other group, i.e. white against black and black against white, is considered criminal, you are not allowed to file accusations if you are of the wrong, quote-unquote, wrong kind of ethnicity or background. So the rule is literally useless, and all it is, it justifies one kind of conduct while criminalizing another kind of conduct. Common sense conservatives, my goodness me, they're a minority, believe that we should criminalize and enforce laws against sexually victimizing a child or re-victimizing a survivor online. Bullying a child online, just turn off the screen. Inducing a child to harm themselves or inciting violence. Criminal bans on intimate content communicated without consent, including deep-faced, must be enforced and expanded. Yeah, that's not common sense, because you can't ban this stuff. Like, how do you ban it? Like, how do you ban the people in Russia that are producing all this stuff, or even in North Korea? Like, you can't do this unless you have some kind of way to globally regulate the internet, which is not common sense. It's just Marxism by another name. Conservatives believe that these serious acts should be criminalized, investigated by police, tried in court, and punished with jail, not pushed off to a new bureaucratic entity that does nothing to prevent crimes and provides no justice to victims. We will bring forward changes to the criminal code that will actually protect children without infringing on free speech. Again, this is lit. So what they're saying, so after Rachel Thomas outlines in great detail how this new C-63 bill is not going to help children, right at the end, she literally says the exact same thing as Bill B-63 is, or C-63, or whatever the hell it is by now. I hate this thing so much, I can't even be bothered to remember how it's pronounced properly. They're saying, oh yeah, we want to do the same thing, just legally and slower. Oh my. Let me just look something up. This is such a meme. Again, I have to go back to my conversations with Alex, because he said to me a few days ago this: I'm reminded of the meme that I didn't save due to it being a bit overly racist that featured the DNC donkey holding a sign saying, I support the destruction of America's middle class. I support unrestricted third world immigration, the death of white civilization, international forever wars, and a robust surveillance and dissident suppression state. Meanwhile, the GOP elephant was holding a sign saying, all of that, but slower and legally. That's literally what this conservatives' response to this bill is. That, yeah, we want to do the exact same thing as this bill, but we want to do it slower and more legally. Thank you again for writing to me, and please accept my best wishes. That's the thing. This is one of the massive reasons why I have such utter contempt and disgust for what is supposed to be my own government, or my side, as it were, the people that claim ostensibly to be part of the same set of ideals that I have. I have absolute contempt for them, because they say things like this. They will go into detail about how they are going to bring in these new legislations and these laws, and then they turn around and they say, oh, yeah, that wouldn't work, but don't worry, we can do it better. We can do it better. We're going to do the exact same thing, but it's going to be somehow correct this time. It just drives me insane when I see it. It drives me insane. I am gesticulating wildly in real life. If I ever do get an actual VTuber model, I am going to need some god level rigging to express, because when I get passionate about this stuff, I get so physically, I really do start jumping around like a flea. You're not wrong, thank you. My children have always how they get right-wing idiots on board with this stuff. A reminder that the biggest BLM page on Facebook USA was run by a guy in Australia. Wasn't there a VTuber who said I didn't consent to talking to this person in a Google Doc? I very vaguely understand that. I very vaguely understand what you mean. To quote Gaddafi, the Israelis are idiots, the Palestinians are idiots, they deserve each other. That's a quote I can get behind. A Spurgtuber. You know, I was watching Super Shirami. Is that how you pronounce it? Super Shirami? A few days ago. I really like Super Shirami's model. I don't know where her model is from or how she got it made. I mean, her model is very scuffed. It's an extremely scuffed model because it clips into itself all the time, but that's a really, really nice, expressive model, and it really captures the craziness of her personality in streams. I really like Super Shirami. Trust me, bro, it will work this time, somehow. I can't say I'm too much partial to whites or hate interracial relationships, considering I don't want to marry a white woman whatsoever. I would prefer an East Asian every day. Gaddafi did have some very correct opinions on Switzerland as well, not to be forgotten. Chirami, okay, I remember. I am a colonialist. I have no ability to pronounce foreign names at all. I do wish to, sincerely apologize. I'm sorry that I do get so passionate about this stuff. I'm sorry that I often come across as, a massive black pill downer. I really am. I'm sorry if I say things that people really don't like hearing. I don't claim to be correct on any of these things. I mean, look at me. Look at this avatar. Do you think that I am trying to do high-level political commentary here? What I care about the most is simple, basic morality. And it gets under my skin when I see moral values that I hold to be self-evident and common sense to be insane, to be twisted in such insane. Don't be sorry about your passions. I simply would recommend kicking the black pill. I mean, yeah. We're tired of mealy-mouthed chumps, man. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I get that. Why are you sorry? I mean, you're a femboy, sorry. Carl, none of this matters. Stop apologizing or I'm telling everyone you're a Canadian. I just don't like to... I can get very passionate, I know, but I really don't like being aggressive towards people. I really don't like it. Because I like to think that people are better than how they come across on the internet. Because it's very easy to condemn people for their thoughts and attitudes and opinions. And... just to make it completely clear, I don't think that the response to any of this should be to throw up your hands and go, oh, there's nothing we can do, there's nothing good that can happen, it's all over, it's all terrible, just crawl under a rock and die. That's not my attitude at all. My attitude is that every single person has a duty to educate themselves on the principles of morality, the principles of what I would like to call positive philosophy, and become self-actualized to the level that they're able to see through the nonsense that surrounds them, that they're able to make decent, objective judgments, and they're able to expose themselves to a wide variety of inputs without becoming desensitized or without becoming dogmatic. And I think it's only when you have that level of self-actualization that you are able to in any way influence your surroundings, because otherwise you're just choosing which master to serve. And that's what I encourage everybody. Even if in the end you come down to an opinion or a stance that I don't agree with, at least you have a stance that you're willing to commit yourself to. And that's why I find all of this so depressing, and why I have such apathy towards people that talk about, the West is dying and so on. Because my attitude is, well, you're letting it die. Congratulations. You're reaping what you sowed. This is your bed. Lie in it. Other people, people can use you as a warning example, but you're not one to follow because you made this bed. My kingdom for a Sulla. VT is doing eulogy about Maury's boobs. Dogmatism is a big problem on this side of the aisle that often goes undiscussed. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. But I mean, I will move on from this now before I get my stances. Let me say gamer words. Damn it. Yeah, I will move on from this topic now. Again, I'm sorry this took up so much of the stream. I really am. Because let me just get rid of this peace bond stuff and so on. What was that? Oh yeah, government. Oh, that's just the text of the bill. This was a funny thing. This was a funny thing that I will move on to now, because I think after that we need a bit of a palate cleanser with something just silly, just completely ridiculous and nonsensical. Inflation hit Germans are demanding a legal cap on the price of a doner kebab. They're not joking. A German political party proposed a government cap on doner kebabs. The price of the popular dish has more than doubled due to inflation, The Guardian reported. Chancellor Scholz previously dismissed the possibility of price caps, well, at least Scholz has a tiny bit of sense in his head. A German political party is calling for the government to cap the soaring price of doner kebabs, which has more than doubled in the past 2 years due to inflation. The food has been a staple in Germany since it was introduced by Turkish immigrants in the 1970s. Around 7 billion euros, or around $7.5 billion worth of doner kebabs are sold every year in Germany, according to The Guardian and The Independent. I will just say here, I have literally never had a doner kebab in my entire life. I have seen them sold, but I have no idea what they taste like. The Left Party said some kebab businesses had increased prices from €4 to €10 in 2 years, The Guardian reported. Hell yeah, I can agree that kind of inflation has happened pretty much everywhere. Kathy Gebel, the youth policy spokesperson on the board of the Left Party, told Business Insider that kebabs cost at least €7 across the country. She said the government must intervene to prevent food from becoming a luxury item. The party plans to propose a government price cap of €4.90, or €2.90 for young people, The Guardian reported. It reportedly envisages using billions of euros of state funds to cap the price. It would then use subsidized vouchers to make up for the difference for distributors. In an Instagram post, the German government said in February... Why is the German government using Instagram? Said in February that the prices of doner kebabs are rising because of rising wages and energy costs. High rent, energy, and food are the main costs for kebab shops. If those decrease, then kebab prices also decrease, Gebels told BI. Kebab price will remain high if the government does not change anything, she said. Wait a second. So, this doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. So she says here, high rent, energy, and food are the main costs for kebab shops. If these decrease, then kebab prices also decrease. That makes sense. That does make sense. But her proposal to fixing it is using billions of euros of state funds to cap the price. In 2023, Scholz was heckled by a member of the public who said, "Speak with Putin, I'm paying €8 for a doner." Scholz previously ruled out implementing price caps, instead of highlighting the good work for the European Central Bank in handling inflation, according to The Guardian. The Federal Statistical Office said overall consumer prices in Germany rose by 5.9% in 2023. It added that energy prices in the country rose by 5.3% in 2023, compared to a staggering 29.7% increase in 2022. The organization said the increase in prices could be attributed to the impact of war and multiple crises. The German government did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Let me just look up, kebabs are serious business. Either make the kebabs cheaper, or the Turks get the Vlad Tepes treatment. Doner kebabs are delicious. Okay, I might try them then. He's German. He has no sense, only clownery. It's middling. No thanks. Is this about departee? I'm not sure what you mean, Luminous. All governments have overpaid interns for all social media nowadays, unfortunately. Monarchical foreigner. So is this an underhanded tactic for the government to get more power, or are they just incompetent buffoons? Why not both? Male careship needs more humor? What? Bank hate? Yes, it's all just about implementing Marxism, and yes, I ain't paying €8 for a doner either. I remember going, I don't buy, what you might call fast food very often, but just recently, because it has been quite hot, I've been buying ice creams a bit more than usual. And And I noticed that the ice lolly that I used to be able to buy for something like 75 cents is now like 175, which is a more than double. De Linke's voter base is the last most delusional DDR nostalgists, university faculties, and Turks. So they can't harm the kebab shops, but must bribe them. I hate the germs. Die Partei is a German joke party who runs on making beer cheaper, and Donor 2, I think. It's the worst form of tism. Ice lolly. Ice lolly has... Fast food was supposed to be cheap. Proctor likes the lollies cold. I mean, we have Koinuko in our Discord, and she's not exactly... she doesn't exactly beat the 7-head rule, exactly. I noticed, actually, that Koinuko is actually going to Offkai. And this is something that baffles me. Because Offkai is a Californian hellhole. And the thing about leftists on the internet right now is they are absolutely hell for leather about Japanese lolly culture being CP. And yet they have Koinuko. I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, I think that Koinuko should be able to do whatever the hell she likes, okay? I'm not against the idea of Koinuko being an Offkai. But what is it with Offkai and its, like, ultra woke attitude and everything? Because remember, Offkai was where VT Rainbow and Marina TV were platformed as well. They got seats at Offkai and everything, and I know that I've been told that Marina did a lot of networking at Offkai as well. So, what is their argument for, by their own standards, letting a literal lolicon VTuber who self-describes as a lolicon, aka what the left considers pedophilia, onto their panels? Like, what's the argument there? And again, I have no problem with Koinuko going to anything like that. That's fine. She should have a free expression like everybody else. But it just baffles me how completely hypocritical all of these organizations are. They'll say one thing, and then they're just like, yeah, go ahead. No, we don't care. We don't care. Commifornia. Yep, very Commifornia. It's run by the same kind of leftoids who do localization. The hypocrisy is normal for them. Because she's black, so it contradicts the lolicon thing. They're gonna have a black don't crack grievance panel at Offkai this year as well. Porian, can you link me to that? Please link me to that. Please, if somebody knows what that is, show me that. I want to see that in Discord. The left only hates pedophilia when it's fictional and non-lefties enjoy it. That is so tragically true. I think she has rabies. I mean, she's a bit allergic to things, so you never know. If she starts foaming at the mouth, they wouldn't surprise me. Sorry. Allow me to look through my tabs again. Somebody, Nyaru Offkai sneaked her in. I'm sure. Hope they get another black representation panel and Even talks on it, since he has, like, 2 white models. What are you talking about? You mean Even Ito? And Porian has just linked me this thing, I think. Oh. Announcement Black Don't Crack. A panel given on black VTubers and the black VTuber community at Offkai Expo 2024, hosted by Kai Sierra? This panel will cover both experiences from individuals of the community and a giant showcase showing great black VTubers on the scene. And dude, with Twitter Blue, you can edit your post. So they've got Even Ito there. Kai Sarah. Anybody I recognize here? Oh, there's a Murray in with the interesting takes. You're unable to view this post because the account owner limits who can view their posts. Let me just put this in the Discord. Can somebody tell me who this guy is? Because it might be Porian. I'll put it in a cafeteria so it's not quite upstream material. But can somebody tell me who this guy who's blocked is? Shouldn't it be blacks don't do crack as a PSA about drug abuse in the black community. Thrang, why are you freaking out over this? Why are you freaking out? Yes, Ivanito, he talked about the whole black representation thing and he has 2 white VTuber models. Because it has to be about them like they're narcissistic children. You know, wasn't VTubers think that you could be anything no matter what you are IRL? The left loves pedophilia. Let's not talk about the German thing. But yeah, if somebody could look in cafeteria and tell me who Murray is replying to, who has blocked me, because it's probably, I bet it's something like Crimbo or whatever, because I know that he blocks me. I need to get an alt account for this so I can actually see stuff that is blocked on my normal account. What does he say? Is there a consensus on what a black VTuber is? Is it the model or the roommate? If the latter, doesn't the roommate have to partially dox themselves to be a member of this community? What happens if it gets found out that the roommate isn't actually black? I have so many questions. As a VTuber, I do not care about where you from or the color of your skin. I'm hoping Kenji can join the panel. That'd be awesome. Oh, sorry. It's the blocked guy is Kaiseria. No, because he doesn't block me. Because look, this is Kaiseria up there. You're able to view this person because the account owner limit. So it can't be Kaisera because he's literally. Yeah, I can't view that either, so whatever it is. Yeah, if somebody can tell me that, that'll be useful, but I mean, it's not a big thing. I'm just curious if it's some idiot that I already know who talks about it a lot. Yeah, let me just heart that, because it's an entirely sensible thing. And again, as Murray says, it's just ridiculous, because if I were to get a black model, could I go to this panel? Would I spiritually be able to identify as black if I had a black model? And what if a black VTuber uses a white model? It's all this stupid idiocy. Ah, here it is. I have no idea who this person is. Let me just open this in my browser. There we go. It's a person who is black behind the VTuber. We usually don't mind sharing and showing ourselves IRL, as I've found. If they aren't black, they'll have hell to pay when it's found out, and they always get found out. Anyway, this came off as really snooty. Just celebrate us with us or ignore. Oh, that's so typical. I saw wrong at someone named Kano. Okay, thank you, Porian, anyway. If they do that, then they'll answer for second. I keep forgetting Kenji is black. I mean, you listen to 5 seconds of Kenji's voice and you immediately know that he's black. Reminds me of the black voice Kyo would use. Yeah, the blackest white man in all the VTubing. Yeah, thank you very much for posting that screenshot. Where was I then? Yeah, this stupid thing. I thought it's worth just talking about that quickly because, as people have already pointed out, that this idea is absolutely classic socialist nonsense. So you have a problem, and the problem is, obviously, that the cost of producing a doner kebab means that it is economically unprofitable to sell a doner kebab for €4 any longer. So the price has been raised to 10, because that has been determined by the market as the point where the costs of labor and the costs of ingredients and the costs of power, heating, etc. have been exceeded by an amount that is acceptable to the public, because notice people are still buying doner kebabs at this price. And so the government, well, not the government, but this person who's proposing it, she acknowledges that high rent, energy, and food is the main reason that these costs are going up. And she also acknowledges if rent, energy, and food goes down in price, then the kebab prices will also decrease. And then her solution is to use the state funding, which comes from tax, to subsidize the price of kebabs. Not subsidize energy prices, not subsidize rent prices, not even subsidize the cost of raw ingredients, but subsidize the kebabs themselves, which will in some way help. The government is failing, and the only solution is more government. Treating symptoms and not the cause. Well, the thing is, if you treated the cause, it's the Cobra effect. And the Cobra effect is really fascinating because people were... I feel like it's worth tangenting on this a tiny bit as well. Let me just look up the Cobra effect right now because it is quite relevant. Cobra effect. And this is... or perverse incentive also. It's also called perverse incentive. I will I will use Wikipedia, I'm sorry, because it is actually a pretty decent summary of this whole thing. Perverse incentive. The term Cobra effect was coined by economist Horst Seibert based on an anecdotal occurrence in India during British rule. The British government, concerned about the number of venomous cobras in Delhi, offered a bounty for every dead cobra. Initially, this was a successful strategy. Large numbers of snakes were killed for the reward. Eventually, however, people began to breed cobras for the income. When the government became aware of this, the reward program was scrapped. When cobra breeders set their snakes free, the wild cobra population further increased. The story is often cited as an example of Goodhart's Law or Campbell's Law. And this is essentially the cobra effect in action. Because, and another massive example is Haiti. Because Haiti does not have a single commercially viable food farm anywhere in the country. And because my headcanon says Proctor is a black VTuber, unfortunately, I cannot be given the pass. YouTube does not allow me to have the pass. Unfortunately, it does not recognize the pass. Wouldn't need socialism if you treated the cause. Yeah, precisely, Luminous. But yeah, Haiti, as I said, Haiti does not have a single viable food farm. And it does not have a single viable food farm because Haiti has a deal with the United Nations. The United Nations supplies Haiti with rice at under market value. So Haiti can buy, I forget the exact figures, but it's something like it buys rice at something like a 50 to 80% discount over market rates. Which means that not a single farm in Haiti can afford to run. Because why on earth would you ever make a farm in Haiti and sell food when Haiti can just buy rice at far cheaper prices internationally? There is no incentive whatsoever for Haiti to become self-sufficient on that basis, because Haiti is being given what amounts to free rice. Haiti can't compete with US rice prices. Yeah, exactly. What happened to all the money people paid the Clinton Foundation to help Haiti? I'm so confused. I mean, it went straight to Haiti and then it came back into US wallets. The thing about charity, the reason why so many millionaires give money to charity is that, well, it's for starters, it's a great tax write-off, and also because charities, even when they work without corruption and completely accurately, charities have an incentive to always make sure that they are the ones that are the beneficiaries of of all the money that goes into charity. Like if you pay, say, $10 million to a charity that is designed to get industrial equipment for an African country, then that charity is going to go out and it's going to get contracts from the South Africans. But what money are the South Africans going to be using to pay for that industrial equipment? They're going to be paying that company with the charity money, which is going to go straight back. And assume that you're a US millionaire and you paid $10 million to a charity that then went to a South African country, and it set up contracts for heavy industry. Then if it sets up that contract for heavy industry with a US-based industry company, then obviously those $10 million that you sent the charity is now going to go straight back to the US economy, because now that money is going to a US company. So in a roundabout way, the money comes straight back to the USA after technically going to another country as charity. There's no money in solving problems and plenty of money in cultivating/domesticating them. I mean, I would disagree with the first part. There is most definitely money in solving problems. But what there is that it's easier to make money cultivating and domesticating the problem. It's easier and it's simpler to maintain. The government of Haiti knew this would happen, but they didn't want to conduct free trade. The US wanted Haiti reliant on us. Yeah. Globalization led to a very vulnerable local economy everywhere. This is why Russia cutting gas hit EU hard. America's help almost always turns out to be a poisoned chalice. Yeah, exactly. That is one of my major things, that just going back very briefly what I was talking about earlier, is that I have absolutely no sympathy for any of the problems the US is facing in foreign fields and with terrorism and all of that. I mean, obviously, terrorism is evil and it is disgusting and it is tragic when people are killed by terrorism. But I simply do not agree that terrorists have no reason to be angry or have absolutely no basis for their cause, because behind every single terrorist act is almost always some outside influence that can be traced straight back to US interference. And it's exactly the same thing with, for example, like go ask Null or anyone who has ever run an image board. No, who is most likely to be spreading child pornography or CSAM or other material? It's almost always a Fed honeypot. It always traces back to a Fed honeypot. Because there is absolutely no reason for the CIA, the FBI, or any other group to eliminate CSAM or child sexual abuse material. Because the moment they do that, their governments are going to say, okay, that problem is solved. You don't need the money we were giving you to solve that problem any longer. It's the same as a farmer donating money to a food bank to buy food from farmers. Yeah, pretty much. It's circular. It's almost always circular. It's why charity is very often a very good investment. Osama bin Laden actually wrote a letter explaining why he did what he did. Yes, and that letter was censored by the US press because they didn't want Americans to realize that Osama actually had perfectly valid and legitimate arguments for why he was doing what he did. Now, he didn't have valid and legitimate arguments for driving a plane into the Twin Towers, but his cause, was basically saying the only thing that I'm doing is fighting back against American imperialism, which was an actual factual thing that was happening in the Middle East. And the fact that the US then invaded Afghanistan literally proved his point. Is the word terrorist the new communist for the US government to pull string? Yes, literally. Neorepo. I think that's how you pronounce your name, Neorepo. And notice how the Taliban have now taken back Afghanistan. And how many Taliban-sponsored terrorist attacks have there been in America since then? I can't think of a single one. I can't even think of a single Taliban-backed terrorist threat that has been thwarted by the USA since the evil and dreadful Taliban took over Afghanistan. And again, the Taliban are not nice people, but naming the Taliban as a terrorist organization that is a threat to America, it's just farcically nonsensical. Because, again, the Taliban were active against ISIS. The Taliban and ISIS were enemies. And ISIS was, speaking of Taliban, have you gotten into that book, Fixing Failed States? I have not gotten to that book, Fixing Failed States. However, I will just could you give me an author of that win scene? I'll just look it up on Google right now, actually. To Fixing Failed States. Fixing Failed States... A Framework for Rebuilding a Fractured World, first edition by Ashraf Ghani and Claire Lockhart. I think that's the one you're talking about, Winscene. The Mossad funded ISIS. I mean, yeah, that's actually, you know what? I will go back to the Israel-Palestine thing for a second. Because there is something that I want to highlight. Where was it? Israel, yeah. This is something that I will highlight. Is it particularly long? No, it's not. It's not particularly long, so I will divert for this. For years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas, and now it's blown up in our faces, right? This is the Times of Israel, so this is an Israeli news outlet, by the way. This is not some raging Stormfront publicist. For years, the various governments led by Benjamin Netanyahu took an approach that divided power between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, bringing Palestinian Authority President Mohammed Abbas to his knees while making moves that propped up the Hamas terror group. The idea was to prevent Abbas or anyone else in the Palestinian Authority's West Bank government from advancing towards the establishment of a Palestinian state. Thus, amid his bid to impair Abbas, Hamas was upgraded from a mere terror group to an organization with which Israel held indirect negotiations via Egypt, and one that was allowed to receive infusions of cash from abroad. Hamas was also included in discussions about increasing the number of work permits Israel granted to Gazan laborers, which kept money flowing into Gaza, meaning food for families and the ability to purchase basic products. Israeli officials said these permits, which allow Gazan laborers to earn higher salaries than they would in the enclave, were a powerful tool to help preserve calm. Towards the end of Netanyahu's fifth government in 2021, approximately 2,000 to 3,000 work permits were issued to Gazans. This number climbed to 5,000, and during the Bennett-Lapid government rose sharply to 10,000. Since Netanyahu returned to power in 2023, the number of work permits has soared to nearly 20,000. Additionally, since 2014, Netanyahu-led governments have practically turned a blind eye to the incendiary balloons and rocket fire from Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel has allowed suitcases holding millions in Qatari cash to enter Gaza through its crossings since 2018, in order to maintain its fragile ceasefire with the Hamas rulers of the Strip. Most of the time, Israeli policy was to treat the Palestinian Authority as a burden and Hamas as an asset. Far-right MK, I'm just going to call him Bezil, Smotrich, oh good grief, these names, now the finance minister in the hardline government of the leader of the religious Zionism party, said so himself in 2015. According to various reports, Netanyahu made a similar point to the Likud faction meeting in early 2019, when he was quoted as saying that those who oppose a Palestinian state should support the transfer of funds to Gaza because maintaining the separation between the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Hamas in Gaza would prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state. While Netanyahu does not make these kinds of statements publicly or officially, his words are in line with the policy that he implemented. The same messaging was repeated by right-wing commentators who may have received briefings on the matter or talked to Likud higher-ups and understood the message. Bolstered by this policy, Hamas grew stronger and stronger until Saturday, Israel's Pearl Harbor, the bloodiest day in its history, when terrorists crossed the border, assaulted hundreds of Israelis, and kidnapped an unknown number under the cover of thousands of rockets fired at towns throughout the country's south and center. The country has known attacks and wars, but never on such a scale since this morning. One thing is clear: the concept of indirectly strengthening Hamas while tolerating sporadic attacks and minor military operations every few years went up in smoke Saturday. Just a few days ago, Asaf Pozilov, a reporter for the Khan public broadcaster, tweeted the following: "The Islamic Jihad organization has started a noisy exercise very close to the border, in which they practice launching missiles, breaking into Israel, and kidnapping soldiers. The difference between Islamic Jihad and Hamas doesn't matter much at this point. As far as the state of Israel is concerned, the territory is under the control of Hamas, and is responsible for all the training and activities there. Hamas became stronger and used the auspices of peace that Israelis so longed for as cover for its training, and hundreds of Israelis have paid with their lives for this massive omission." And that's all just basically just fluff talking about how terrible the whole thing was. Let me look back up at chat for a second. I remember Christopher Hitchens speculating that September the 11th was chosen specifically as an anniversary of the Battle of Vienna. The Mossad funded ISIS. The Taliban is the problem the US created to fight the evil commies, is an Ouroboros precisely. And ISIS got away from Mossad, vicious cycles, create instability so people vote for you to protect them from said instability. A powerful state funding terrorists for their own ends, only for them to turn rogue. Never heard that one before. Lord help me, I'm beginning to notice again. BB truly is from Philly. Of course he used the US government playbook. Yeah, and again, this is why I really think that people who look at, it's black and white, Palestinians versus Israelis, etc., is so ridiculous, because these groups have been in an incestuous relationship for decades. Let's get that off my screen now. I'm not interested in that right now. There was also something else that I want to go through, of course, which is just moving on to VTubers for a second, after all that political stuff. There is Nichi Sanji's latest L, which I find to be just so absolutely typical of Nichi Sanji. Just why not? Here's something of a rare treat, an L coming from Nichi Sanji JP, who usually isn't as L covered like the EN. Around yesterday, Nichi Sanji JP did a stream collab with an energy drink company, ASAP Club. The company isn't a stranger for collabing for weeb stuff, considering they did a collab with Idle Life is Bad anime Oshi no Ko a while back, but anyway. So where's the L? Apparently, one of the Nichi JP staff has the rather neat idea of telling people to mix their energy drink with alcohol. Not exactly an issue, since caffeinated alcohol does exist and all, but the staff thought, hey, mixing it 1:1 ratio should be good enough. Yeah, how to drink recommended by our staff. Chamisap. Mix 1:1 with chamisol and drink. May affect infants. What? Trudeau. Do. I love that. Is that the alcohol in question is chamisol, a Korean soju. If I remember correctly, it has around 20% ABV, so that's not weak at all. The energy drinks website doesn't mention the exact caffeine per can, but one online store who sold the Oshino collab mentioned 52 milligrams of caffeine per can. Let me just have 1 second. How many of caffeine is in 1 cup of coffee? 40 milligrams. Okay, so that's not too much. So that's not a vast amount. I did think it was too much. Anyway, the stream ended. The ASAP Club made a tweet about how the stream went. And then, today, the Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries dropped this tweet. Warning. Caffeine is found in coffee, tea and energy drinks, and excessive intake can cause dizziness and tremors. Do not drink caffeinated beverages with alcohol. This can lead to excessive intake of not only caffeine, but also alcohol. Apparently, there were quote-unquote unconformed reports of people, mostly teenagers or young adults, who probably took the advice of mixing energy drinks plus alcohol by a 1:1 ratio, got hit by shit like palpitations, severe dizziness, and heart arrhythmia, to the point that the ministry had something to say about it. Of course, this might be coincidence, but it's still enough that ASAP Club had to make a post trying to save face about it. In yesterday's ASAP promotional broadcast, Any Colour staff brought up the idea of mixing ASAP with alcohol. We have checked with the manufacturing plant, development lab, medical personnel, and experts regarding this matter, and have confirmed that ASAP Club and Camisol are no problem in terms of caffeine content and alcohol content when compared to typical oolong highballs and green tea highballs. However, please be careful to not drink too much alcohol. Please drink in moderation. Of course, this means that somehow, a Nijisanji staff had a very bright idea of trying to get people to do caffeinated alcohol, forgot that you can't just mix it to on a 1:1 ratio, and might have led an unconfirmed amount of people having health issues. So that's an L for them, right? You might even call it loco. Nijisanji almost killing people, you know, the usual. I am astonished that Nijisanji has not killed people by now. Yes, it can affect infants. Fetal alcohol syndrome is not terribly uncommon. Greta Thunberg. Cough. Nijisanji is a Japanese company. They are linguistically starved for L's. Never mix your medicines. Oh, you actually made that joke before I read it in chat, Monaco Foreigner. Soju is like moonshine. I like moonshine. I like strong, pure alcohol. It's very, very pleasant. Anyway, there's more stuff to cover, but I need to go to the bathroom, so I will actually step back to just chatting for a second, where you can enjoy the nice fireplace sounds for a second while I'm gone. I will be like 2 seconds. Please excuse me for a moment. Hello, chat. I have returned. So I'm just eating another almond. Proctor is gone. Time to post on main. I mean, I have no particular problem with posting unless it's Ridicule, who will be banned permanently if he does any other nonsense. Wish I could, but I'm too taken in by Jelly, playing TIS 100 for 6 hours at a time. That is a flavour of autism and menhera that's very novel and enjoyable. Jelly is quite nice. Dizzy and Jelly and Irie and Panko. All my favourite phase talents overall, I'd say. Although I don't watch them anywhere near as much as I should. I don't really watch many VTubers on YouTube any longer. I only really watch VTubers on Twitch now, because Twitch is just so much better than YouTube for so many things. I know people hate Twitch, but I actually really like Twitch. Like just the fact that it gives you like a list of creators that you've watched and how long you've watched them. It really tickles my autism brain. I don't want to miss any streams that my favorite creators on Twitch make, because I'm like, no, I don't want at the end of the year, I don't want to be told that I didn't watch as much Kirsche as I possibly could, or that I didn't catch this stream from BB and so on. I really don't like missing streams. Jelly is absolute wife material. Jelly is adorable, coda-brained. Yeah, Jelly is really sweet. I do like Jelly a lot. Monster Energy with vodka is a boomer classic. If you like heart palpitations, I suppose. Let me just look up the next thing as well, since we've covered that. Yeah, this was one of the... Oh, so let me just refresh my... Yeah, so that Twitter thing is not deleted, fortunately. So I covered this individual. I think it was on my the stream that I did about a week or so ago. Camilla, this VTuber Camilla, who was called out for basically she posted a clip of her avatar doing the Lolly God Requiem dance, and was called out because she'd previously called Shondo a pedophile, basically, and asked why she had a platform. This was brought up, this was brought up again recently, and to my absolute and complete shock, she actually issued a public apology for it, which I think is quite good. Which I think is worth going over, as we will do now. Hi, I'm posting this because a lot of people are questioning me for posting the Lolly God Requiem video after I, admittedly, did attack a creator for liking that kind of stuff 2 years ago. When I first started VTubing, I did not understand the culture in the slightest. I was mostly a cringe stan Twitter user, so coming into VTubing and anime culture, someone who had zero clue as to what anything was, I didn't understand anything, and when I saw lolly stuff, I immediately assumed it was pedo shit. Keep this part in mind as you're reading the rest. When I first started streaming, I had a bigger content creator convince me that drama equals content so that I should farm that shit. Yeah, only do that if you don't stick your foot in it yourself, darling. So, me, still slowly coming out of my woke stan Twitter phase and entering the VTubing phase, saw what a bunch of people were posting about. That's bad grammar, I really hate that. I saw what a bunch of people were posting about a streamer on Twitter, and I immediately jumped the hate bandwagon because I wanted to take my friend's advice, which led me to call out the girl live on my stream where her name had no business being there. Looking back at it, I wasn't even trying to criticize, I was just straight up bullying her and trying to deplatform her when I didn't even know who she truly is as a person. We have so many mutual friends in common, and anytime her name was brought up in idle chat, I started feeling really bad, because everyone had said nothing but nice things about her, and it became more clear to me that she didn't deserve that. Why am I being beeped on Twitter not Twitter, oh, that's just, I thought that was supposed to suppress, oh well. As for apologizing to her, I've reached to a mutual friend of ours back in February because her DMs are closed, in an attempt to send my apology to her. Said friend told me that she wasn't answering DMs because it was clear she was going through something at the time. After I started gaining experience in streaming over the year, I've learned so many things. You'd actually have to be mentally inept to do what I did over a year ago. It's just rude, unnecessary, disrespectful. I know that now. And if somehow this message gets to you, I am very sorry for what I did. I didn't know you, and yet I attacked you without even educating myself. I hate that phrase, educate yourself. With who you truly are. My behavior was unacceptable. I will continue to learn how to be a better person. Side note, I hope you feel better with what you are dealing with, ATM. It sounds rough, so please take all the time you need to heal. You have so many people who love and appreciate you that will be waiting for you with open arms. And sorry to those who I upset with my previous post. As I've delved deeper into the world of VTubing, I've gained a better understanding of anime culture. I've come to understand that characters with youthful appearances are common across media forms. I've come to appreciate their innocence without any negative implications. I've pretty much adopted an entirely new outlook on this subject. In conclusion, I'm not the same person who I was 2 years ago. I hate her too. I hope you can give present me a chance. If not, that's okay too. Have a nice day. And, oh, she actually posted, she actually posted the apology she tried to send. And then there's Lucy Pyre, okay, Grimmy too. Is there anyone here who does the whole post thing? You are amazing as a smaller streamer. Is that all? Is this oh, just people so that she mentions can follow. Okay, so that explains why she hasn't been dogpiled by a bunch of retards that are like, oh no, Lolly is always pedo. Why are you apologizing to the CP peddlers? Who could have guessed that VTubers say stupid things and make bad decisions? Yeah, and I do think this apology is worth highlighting simply because it's a pretty good apology. I think that she does a very good job of owning up to what she did wrong, and I think she does a very good job of explaining also the mindset that she was in when she made that joke. I do think it's a tiny bit deflectionary, possibly, to say she was told by a friend to farm drama, which I suppose kind of also says she didn't know instinctively that was a bad idea. But I mean, again, it was 2 years ago, so I am not going to sit here and say, apology not accepted, because that would literally make me as bad as the retarded Twitter stans. Check out Shonda's reply to the apology. Can you link it to me? I did see it, but I'm afraid I don't have it on my tabs list at the moment. So if somebody could link Shonda's apology to me on Discord, I would be happy to look at it myself. Oh dear. Sorry, I'm just... Oh dear. Sorry, give me a second, please. I need to cough. Sorry about that. I just swallowed and a bit of the saliva went down the wrong way. So I started to choke. Isn't Shondo clinically Menhera to dangerous levels? Shondo is a paranoid schizophrenic. She's medicated and everything, but yeah, she has been diagnosed. I think it's either paranoid schizophrenia or just regular flavor of schizophrenia. But she's been very open and public about it. She's on medication and everything. And recently she went on a hiatus because she said that her schizophrenia was very strong and very dangerous. So, and she had been thinking about hurting herself and various other things, and that's why she was going on hiatus, which of course people were very understanding about, because there's no way that if you have that, I think that yeah, I find Shondo does lean a little bit too much into the lolicon stuff for me to enormously like her, but at the same time, Shondo is obviously someone with a very good work ethic who fights very hard against her demons, which I can only have intense respect for. So yeah. Content I don't necessarily agree with, but the person she is seems to be very nice. Okay. Allow me to just open this. Here we go. This is Fallen Shadow's response. Does she have... No, she doesn't have Twitter Blue. That's why she's doing it. Camilla I think it takes an incredible amount of strength to look at the person you used to be and see how you could have made it better. It takes an unimaginable amount to publicly step onto the internet and admit that in front of an endless ocean of people. We have all done things we regret, but I think more importantly than that is how we look back on them, and the choices we make in the future when we can reflect on what we did poorly. I have made many of these mistakes myself, especially early into streaming and as a new VTuber, so I can definitely understand. The best lesson I have learned is to always grow and never hold who you were against the current you. And I think I like the current Camilla a lot. She seems very kind and strong. We might not know each other well, but I am very proud of you for this, and I would like to say that I wholeheartedly and fully forgive you. I don't hold any hard feelings against you. I have been mostly off social media for the last month or so catching up on all of this was quite a storm, and of course it is always wonderful to know the Great Lolly Inquisition has claimed another. I'm sorry that you/your friend couldn't reach me. I have been very bad at replying to messages the last few months, her and every other female VTuber in the universe. That I've been struggling, but I had no clue you wanted to talk, and I don't think our friend ever messaged me in the end. But if you would like to talk it through at all any further in private, or want to talk at all anyway, I followed you. I am sorry to you and to anyone else reading this that I've been terrible at communicating since things got really bad. And thank you, Camilla, sincerely. Reading this made my heart feel really warm. Wishing you well and lots of love. Which is really good. Imagine tangling with the most powerful tuber alive. The fact that Camilla owns up to her own stupidity is very respectable. Yeah, I mean, I don't, but I think that Camilla is a bit of a Coomer streamer. But, I mean, yeah, if she's actually willing to apologize and not just suck on leftist cock, then I can't hold it against her. Good for her. Proctor Jack drank the Niji drink and died. I wish I had some caffeine right now. It's been too long since my last cup of coffee, aka less than 2 hours ago. How long has this stream been going on for? Yeah, 2 hours almost exactly. Okay. Yeah, so I finished about an hour and a half ago. There are worse things to be than a bit coomery. I mean, I do agree. But still, I just don't particularly like streamers that make that the primary focus of their content, and I've never seen anything from Camilla that's not coomery. I bet if you say the apology wasn't enough for me, it was fine. Yeah, it was perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with the apology. Absolutely nothing wrong with her. Nothing wrong with the apology whatsoever. And as a result, I have changed my opinion on Camilla a lot. I will no longer call her, like, stupid or what I was calling her before, because obviously I was wrong, and that's not true. So yeah, Camilla, content I don't particularly like, but character seems to be perfectly fine. And if you're not willing to forgive people, then, well, you're not going to get far in this world. And after that, there's two more things. There's actually three more things I wanted to cover. But there is this thing on X. I bet a few say the... sorry, I already read that. My apologies. No, that's not it. I don't care about that. Now, where was it? Where the heck was it? It's here somewhere. That's Grums. That's Annie News and Facts. That's really annoying. No, that's Fallen Shadows. I'm sorry, I've got my tabs mixed up a second because two things with very similar titles were obviously cross-posted something. Yeah, that's annoying. Oh well. But this was another article that I wanted to read, which is the adolescent mental health crisis, which is something that I consider, well, very, very important. I've strongly considered to myself that if there was ever a dream job that I wanted, I would very much like to be a lecturer about ethics and morality and the way that society ought to function. If somehow I could actually get that as a job, as opposed to just a side gig, I would throw my whole heart and soul into that job instantly. I've considered studying psychology properly before. I'm just not sure about how transmissible those ideas would be into actual a profitable career. But I do read a lot of psychology. I understand a lot of psychology. A professional blogger, maybe. But no, I would actually like to sit down. I mean, it sounds like you want to become a dictator. I mean, yeah, I would become a dictator in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Give me control of the country. I can do a better job than the people in charge. But I would love to be able to sit down. It's not unless you go into therapy or you stay in academia doing research. I would quite happily do therapy with people. I've literally helped a lot of people with their mental issues before. And I find that an awful lot of therapy, I have never had a truly positive experience with any therapist past my 20s or so. There was one good therapist who worked with me as a child, and that's it. Every other therapeutic experience has been negative. Therapy, you need to get a PhD. Yeah, I know. There's a reason there's only two therapists qualified to diagnose ADHD in the entirety of Ireland. But I wanted to cover this because it's very relevant to VTubers as well because of the whole Menhera aspect. And also with the things that I've been reading myself recently as well. Something major is going wrong with how we talk about adolescent mental health in schools and universities, at home and online. There are multiple layers to this problem, which started with a well-intended desire to destigmatize mental disorders and ends somewhere considerably more complex, problematic, and surprising. The first layer is the concern that talking so much about mental health has meant milder problems are now confounded with mental disorders, and young people are diagnosing themselves with problems they don't really have. Remember the Tumblr generation, everybody? Low mood is too readily being described as depression, mild anxiety as an anxiety disorder, and so on. I think this really can be a problem, and I stand by the arguments I've made about this before. I'm conducting research on this right now. But the changing public conversation has led to a second, less acknowledged problems. That in some camps, all young people who say they have mental health problems are now being treated with skepticism. In my research group, we are currently running a study analyzing attitudes towards self-diagnosis of mental disorders. And some people believe that any young person who self-diagnoses has inevitably misunderstood and is mistaking their mild problems for more serious disorders. When I am interviewed about this topic, the subtext is sometimes obvious. Why are young people lying, and how can we get them to stop? If I could sum up how some adults feel today about adolescent mental health problems, it would be one big eye roll, one collective disdainful urge to tell snowflakes to pull up their socks. I wonder if locking down young people for several years in their home without interpersonal contact will lead to an increase in mental health issues. As the Lotus Eaters said, the general manager of a random Buc-ee's gas station in Texas is probably a better leader of men than the PM of Great Britain. That's why they're paid more. If I had followed through on one therapist, I'd be medicated to the gills. Yep. Exactly. Whereas I am absolutely convinced at this point that the vast majority of medication is either a placebo effect or just a shield and a cover for actual solutions, which come from behavioral science. And behavioral science has been scorned and ignored and warped and twisted and perverted for years and years and years, and I hate that. I despise it. And one of the reasons that I bring this article up, that this particular paragraph right here, no, not that one, is these two actually. These two paragraphs that I've highlighted is something that I've talked about with people like Comfy Lennox an awful lot, because Lennox is somebody who has had a lot of stigma because she has several severe disorders, both physical and mental. I think she has borderline personality disorder, and she has a muscular dystrophy of some sort, which leaves her very physically disabled. And one of the major problems that she has encountered online... God damn it, did he read the book? What book? Black number 1. One of the major problems that Lennox has encountered online, and something that really affected her with the whole Marina VT stuff, is that she had a very abusive and traumatic childhood. And as a result, she prefers non-gendered pronouns because she suffers very badly from the trauma of her childhood, which was, I believe, I believe sexual in nature. I cannot be 100% certain, but I think that it was. That she was basically very badly sexually abused as a minor. And as a result, she finds her femininity to be a source of trauma for her because it reminds her of basically the only association she has with femininity in the sexual sense is the abuse that she suffered as a minor. And that is one of the reasons why she finds the use of non-gendered pronouns like they, them to be comforting and asks people to use them. I mean, and again, she doesn't ask. I literally am using like gendered pronouns for her right now, and I can talk to her. I can call her she, her, etc., and she's fine with that. But it's just something that she prefers done simply because it makes it easier for her. And she has encountered this problem as well, in that it's because of the over destigmatization of mental disorders. She finds it very hard for people to take it seriously when she says that she has very serious underlying issues that some of the things that she asks for will help with when they have been so badly warped and twisted by people who are using them for trivial purposes. None of those coping mechanisms helps with the underlying cause. I would both agree and disagree. I don't know enough about how she works with herself to comment on what treatment or therapy she does receive. But I honestly can say there are actual cases where some people have such severe reactions to various things that you do need to shield them from being triggered. Like, triggers are a real and genuine thing that do affect people. They have been very badly mistreated, as in the terms themselves, not the people, and applied to all sorts of generalized situations. But I mean, the mere fact that PTSD can be triggered. PTSD can be triggered by a wide variety of things. That there is a legitimate psychological use for terms such as triggering and safe spaces. And I am in support of those uses. I think there is a place for safe spaces, and even things like trigger warnings, potentially. Because there are people who are very seriously affected by those things. They are a very, very small minority. But triggers exist, but not in the way online people think about them. Yes, exactly. Like I say, I can use she, her pronouns with Lennox, and she's fine with that. It's not going to cause her PTSD. It's not going to cause her existential agony. She's not going to start crying and weeping and be sobbing. It's just something that if she had a choice, that she would prefer not to have the negative mental association with. But she doesn't mind if I call her she, her, etc., which I think is a rational and sensible approach to things. The one by the lady who wrote the book about transgender girls. Yes, I have read that book. I've read Abigail Schreier's book about the transgender crisis afflicting young teenage girls. I forget what the exact name of it was. I have started reading her book about psychology as well, or therapy, which I also think is very good. But I've not gotten very far with it because I've been reading a bit of Nietzsche, I've been reading a bit of Plato, I've been reading a lot. Irreversible Damage, yes, Irreversible Damage. Irreversible Damage is a fantastic book. If you know anyone whose daughter has suddenly become interested in transgender ideology, recommend them Irreversible Damage. The audiobook is out there, the PDF is out there. Look it up on Yandex. You will find it very easily. Hell, if you ask me for a PDF, I've got it downloaded on my computer. I will share that with you. And the new book is Bad Therapy. Yeah, Bad Therapy is also a very good book, which I'm currently reading through. Since the founding of the AMA in the 1910s, physical and mental health has only gotten worse and worse in the US, and the US exports its BS to the world. Mix some Marxist bullshit, and we got modern day Tumblr nad. Yep. Yes, Bad Therapist, thank you. Yeah, Bad Therapist. I have all of Abigail Schreier's books. If anyone wants PDFs of her books, then ask me, because I can send them to you. Once again, ping, 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 pingu. New streaming idea. Let me just open this in a new tab. Not on stream. I'm just going to put this for later because otherwise I'm going to forget about this very quickly. There we go. Apologies for that brief interruption. Mandatory reading. I agree. They are fantastic books. Very well researched and very, very balanced too. Very balanced and very nuanced. But yeah, going back to Lennox's example, is that Lennox has said that with VT Rainbow, and this was something that I did. This is something that I will unashamedly admit that I did. When I looked at Lennox's bio and I saw, oh, they've got pronouns here, I immediately thought, this is somebody who is 100% a completely indoctrinated rainbow person, that they are never going to listen to me. They are going to learn absolutely nothing about this encounter with Marina. They're going to defend her to the death. They're going to say, oh, that she's been victimized and all of this stuff. And even me, like Marina is, to me anyway, definitely not a woman. Definitely does not deserve the moniker of woman, but, you know, for the sake of, I just can't be bothered to police my own language that much to not use the pronouns that I kind of instinctively do. But yeah, I thought all of that. Although I reached out to Lennox, when she didn't reply to me, I immediately thought, yeah, this is a dyed-in-the-wool SJW cultist who I'll never get through to. And I held that opinion right up until I actually did start to talk to her. And then I realized, wait, no, this person is actually genuinely very badly affected by various things and has full justification to ask for certain things and be in support of certain things, even if I don't necessarily agree with the extremes that those certain things have gone to. And I'm very grateful that I was able to speak to her, and we still talk because, again, I quite like her as a person. Because she is a good example of somebody who has very bad circumstances but does not allow them to get her down. It sounds like she got through to you instead. Yeah, she did, because I mean, she did intend to reply to me, but the thing was that because of Twitter, my message was like deprioritized in her feed because I don't have Twitter Blue. So my messages to new people are often caught and marked as like, do you like the whole message request thing? And she just didn't see it. She just did not see my message for weeks and weeks. And Uncle Florida, some decent people are sadly going to get caught in the filter, but I do have an iron rule about not engaging with anyone who has pronouns in their bio. Good rule of thumb in most cases. I mean, yeah, I again, my exposure to Lennox has mellowed me out an awful lot. I feel that I now have a duty to give people the benefit of the doubt unless they are completely insane, obviously insane. Like, if I see somebody who has pronouns in bio, and they are saying, I think that puberty blockers should be legal at all ages, and I think that trans genocide is real, I'm not going to be reaching out to that person because they are literally signaling that they are an indoctrinated part of a cult of child genital mutilation that I think should not even be allowed to have a say in matters. So no, Sylvain/Marina, do you seriously think that Marina would talk to me? You must be insane if you think that would ever happen. Like, I do think that it's perfectly fine to judge people if they are very, very blatant and obvious about what they're on about. But in a case like Lennox, who was going out of her way to be nice and accommodating to people even when she didn't like them, I would be the asshole if I prejudged her in that case. And I think that everybody should be the same. Never prejudge somebody when you can at all give them, if there is any grounds for giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, then I think you should. When people tell you who they are, believe them. Yes, that is exactly my stance. But if there is ambiguity, because I am never going to be able to persuade people. See, this is one of the things that gets to me so much. I absolutely hate it when I watch people who make good points to an echo chamber. For example, people like Matt Walsh. I think that Matt Walsh, although he is I think he's a bit of a grifter, honestly, but I think that Matt Walsh has good points about a lot of things, because he's a pretty kind of conventional morality, family is everything, all that kind of stuff. So he has some good points. What I disagree with about Matt Walsh is that he is very obviously preaching to a choir. He is all of his arguments and all of his points are not designed to convince people that might be on the fence. All of his arguments and all of his points are designed to appeal to his already existing user base. Matt Walsh will never convince a single person to join his side, because all of his arguments are smug, well, I know that I am on the right side of history, and it is self-evident that I am on the right side of history. Therefore, eventually, we will win, and you will lose. And meanwhile, I will be sitting over here patiently waiting for you people to come to me and admit that I was right all along. And I'm sorry, that's a smug wanker's attitude, and I don't care. I don't care. You have to take the time to preach to people who don't like you, who will often spit in your face and tell you to piss off. Because if you don't, you're never going to find maybe the 1 in 100, even 1 in 1,000 people who will listen to you. That's one of the things that really gets to me. I really hate that kind of provincialism, of that kind of pandering to your own base, as opposed to actually trying to convince people. Anyway, let's get back to the article. I think over-pathologizing is happening in some cases, as I say above, and that this needs careful examination. The problem is that obviously some young people really do have significant levels of distress and dysfunction that absolutely cross the threshold for a psychiatric disorder, whether or not they have been officially diagnosed. Even the ones who don't meet all the criteria are simply fighting to have their distress heard, using the language that surrounds them. Exactly. That's precisely what I was talking about with Lennox earlier. But now, ironically, none of them are being believed. They can't all be unwell, the attitude seems to be, so none of them are. The backlash against mental health awareness has begun before we are even close to understanding how to support anyone who needs help. This is where things get really messy. It's all happening in parallel. We are in a situation where some adolescents are very legitimately experiencing mental health crises without decent treatment, while others are inaccurately describing typical development stress with the language of disorder. Let me have a sip for 1 second. Adults who support young people know there is a difference, but understandably struggle to make the distinction, partly through a lack of knowledge and partly because there is no clean distinction between the two groups anyway. Everything exists on continua, lines are blurred. The upshot is that in some cases everyone is treated like a serious risk, which is unhelpful in itself, but in others everyone is dismissed. The whole thing is a mess and 1,000 miles away from the original goal of mental health awareness. Whenever I am interviewed about all this, I try to convey that whatever the impact of the changing conversation, there are still young people who are seriously unwell and need help. But I cannot guarantee this point will make the final cut, and often it doesn't. I firmly believe we need to critique the recent transformation in the public health discourse, but I worry about the consequences of asking the questions. I'm deeply conflicted about how the things I've said and written might end up being misused. Matt Walsh is clearly a grifter. Yeah, I believe most LGB would like to be left alone. The ones that shout a lot have issues or want something out of it. Yes. There are those that are doing it because the pronouns in bio, because they just want people to know, and some people who are doing it because it's the thing to be grandstanding about. I mean, I would say the people who are grandstanding about it vastly outnumber the ones who are doing it because it actually means anything to them. I relaxed and was surrounded by a group of teens. I don't know what you mean, but I think you got cut off there, a sarcastic madman. But why should we change our behavior to pander to them? Why is the onus on us when they won't do the hard work to help themselves? I mean, the thing is, Arclight, the people like Lennox absolutely are doing hard work. Like, Lennox fights constantly for her own, because in Scotland, under things like the NHS, the attitude to mental health is kill yourself, basically. Like, Lennox has come to me and been extremely worried about the whole assisted dying idea, because she looks at places like Canada and she is well aware that assisted dying laws are being used as a way, basically, as a form of eugenics. They are being used to kill off mentally ill people in lieu of actually providing them with treatment. And when people say, oh, it's the onus is on them, it's the onus on society to provide them with valid methods of treatment. It's the responsibility of a good society, of a morally founded society, to provide the materials necessary to boost up those who are born with disadvantages. And I think that I do agree on some level. People should not radically have to change their behavior in every way simply to support the existence of people who have disability. At the same time, I think that a moral person should look at a person with a disability and be able to automatically internalize the idea that this person needs to be treated or should be fairly treated, that the fair treatment for that person is going to be different than that of a normal person, that maybe you should soften your tone with them, maybe you should make allowances for certain kinds of behavior that they exhibit that they don't have conscious control over. It doesn't mean you should be permissive. It doesn't mean you should let them necessarily get away with things, but it does mean you should take a different approach, because different strokes for different folks. The group of teens was for prejudging. Yeah, you should never prejudge people. A grifter is someone who doesn't actually believe what they're saying and is only doing it for money and clout, not just someone who's being cunt about their beliefs. Yet 10 years ago I couldn't get my bedridden mum, who was suffering greatly, made, yet some of mental illness now allows it. I shake my head. Yeah, it's completely arbitrary and it's completely ridiculous. People use traits as a diagnosis. Everyone can have traits, but the two are very different. I mean, there's that saying, we're all a little bit autistic. I don't agree with that saying, but I get the point that it's trying to make. Let's continue with this article. What makes this harder is that there is almost no empirical research on any of this. The potential downsides of mental health awareness, overpathologizing, skepticism, are widely discussed among anyone working with young people. Yet with a handful of exceptions, my research group is the only one in the world looking at this. And even we are still right at the beginning. Academic research into adolescent mental health is focusing on many other important issues, but not this. This is utterly at odds with the public interest in this topic. In the last few months alone, my theoretical article on this topic had been discussed on a whole bunch of different news websites. I have turned down many other requests to be interviewed. When I don't have the capacity and journalists ask me who else they can talk to, I don't know who to suggest. I am writing this as a call to action. This is potentially a major public health problem, a damning tale of unintended consequences, and we need sensitive academic research to understand it better. We need to empirically test somehow whether the burgeoning mental health conversation has affected how adolescents understand, label, and experience mental health problems. Somehow we need to do this without dismissing or ignoring any of the young people who are clearly struggling so badly, whatever you call it. We then need to understand what we might be able to do about this. I am asked repeatedly what might be a better way of talking about adolescent mental health if the current approach is wrong. My honest answer is I don't know. I have no idea. We are miles off even understanding whether and how the current approach is wrong. It's hard to say I don't know to a journalist in a public display of my apparent expertise, but right now it's all that I have. I am also asked sometimes whether attempts at a corrective might be too late. An interviewer asked me whether if TikTok videos are indeed shown to warp young people's understanding of mental health, then what I am proposing to do about it. My answer again is that I don't know. Of course, I hope it's not too late. Societal approaches to mental health have changed in the past, so there's every chance they can change again. But an awful lot of work needs to be done to get there, and there are adolescents growing up right now while we try to figure it out. And the rest of the article is just comments. Where is the line, though? By letting the teenage furry use a litter box in school, are we not reinforcing the behaviour? I mean, the line is common damn sense. And this is one of my major bugbears, is that people act as if common sense doesn't exist any longer. Religion originally helped people, but ironically it was altruism, which doesn't mean being selfless. It's a religion. that changed that, making people care less and be worse morally in society. Yeah, that's another thing, is that religion and mental health have always gone hand in hand, and that's an unpleasant thing for people to acknowledge in some cases, but it's true, is that religion used to be the substitute for mental health, for therapy. And in a lot of ways, it was better. It obviously didn't help people with genuine serious mental disorders who just started to believe they were talking to angels and so on, but people used the church, they used their faith as an anchor in times of mental distress. Don't you know furry litter boxes are a right-wing conspiracy theory? I mean, Arclight, I think you might have been here when I played that YouTube video of a therapist talking to, giving an interview. Basically, what he said was the approach to therapy is not to enable people who have triggers, who have disorders, etc., which is what people do now. Therapy now is all about enabling people. It is about enabling people and telling them they are hecking valid and that they don't need to do anything about their mental disorders, but instead it is society's duty to accommodate them in every way. Whereas this therapist was saying, no, that the proper approach is that when a person, for example, who has PTSD, who has trauma, who has triggers and so on, whenever a person like that is triggered, what they should do after they've calmed down is to look at the situation and go, why was I triggered? What caused this incident to give me a trigger? What caused this incident to make me lose control? What could I do better next time? And then that person has empirical data that they can use to take forwards and then use to try and not be triggered the second time, to work on their disorder, to work on the problems that they have. But it requires that therapists teach people to self-analyze, to have confidence in their own opinions and their own attitudes. Might I suggest the book The Myth of Mental Illness? I think you would find it fascinating and rather prescient. Let me put that on my Discord as well, because otherwise I'm going to forget about it. The Myth of Mental Illness. A 1961 book by the therapist Thomas what? I have no idea how to pronounce that guy's second name. Yeah, as long as your approach to therapy is you're hecking valid and nobody has the right to tell you how to live your life, you're always going to lose. It is the duty of somebody who has a mental illness to try and meet society after society has already said, we'll reach out a hand for you. Society should have the duty to reach out the hand to the mentally ill people and say, by taking my hand, I will go out of my way to try and make you try and allow you to live your life in a way that is still as fulfilled, as independent, and as capable as a regular person. But you have to reach out and take that hand and put yourself on a path of self-improvement to bring yourself up to the same level as other people. Society will be there to help you if you fall and stumble, but you only earn those resources if you demonstrate your commitment to changing, your commitment to improving. And I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. Because the moment you tell people you don't have to better yourself, then I think your society is fundamentally failed. I don't think that you have anything to be proud about. Does considering menhera a moe trait add to the problem, as in making it a cute and desirable trait? I honestly don't think that anyone who thinks that mental illness is an attractive trait has ever really been in the presence of a genuinely mentally ill person for very long. I have, and it's not pleasant. There's nothing moe about menhera. There's nothing moe about schizophrenia, about any of these kind of disorders. I legitimately have been in the presence of people that have had serious mental breakdowns, and it's really, really, really not something I'd recommend. Really not something I'd recommend. Therapy is about affirming behavior now in some places mandated. I know. Trust me, I am very well aware of that. I'm describing my ideal, the way that I think that therapy should work, and the way that classical therapists thought that it should work. This is only relatively recently that affirmation has become the main thing. And of course, I completely disagree with it. You should never affirm. It's very worrying. Yes. Yes. I don't think mental illness should ever be glorified. I mean, I am literally an autistic person. And I don't think autism should be glorified. If you want to play Kick the Autistic, go right ahead. Go right ahead. I don't care. I don't think that autism is a superpower or anything like that. I think that it grants me a perspective on the world that is often very valuable, but there's other parts of autism that is damn difficult. Leah once discussed this in her Gypsy Rose stream. You don't want a Menhera GF, you want an autistic GF. Menhera is effing horrifying IRL. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely 100%. Like, real mental illness, a real Menhera, is the kind of thing that, you know, gets cops to shoot old ladies because the old ladies are just randomly possessed by demon strength and grab knives and start stabbing grown men in the chests and somehow fighting off 3 or 4 people at once. Real mental illness is terrifying to observe. And if you've ever... In fact, let me tell you a story. Chat, I've got a story. Let me just go back to just chatting for a minute and get some nice ambience on. Let me tell you the story of a woman that I once knew who was studying to be a psychologist. This woman was a teenager, and she was very intelligent. And she decided to study therapy because she wanted to help people. And she embarked on a course for psychotherapy. And as part of this psychotherapy course, she got to interview genuinely mentally ill people. And on one of these interviews, she was placed in a room with a man who had paranoid schizophrenia and was refusing medication. This man was behind 2 inches of reinforced plate glass, and he was in full restraints. Randomly, through this meeting, this man had a psychotic break, and he smashed through those 2 inches of plate glass, and he tore his way out of the restraints. And with his bare fingers, and I don't mean his nails, I mean the soft parts of his fingers, because his fingernails had been purposefully trimmed down to the core so that he wasn't able to claw people with them. With just the grip of his fingers, he tore a chunk of flesh out of this young woman's arm that was larger than $2 bills placed together. And I mean literally ripped it off the bone before he could be tranquilized and subdued. He did that in about 12 seconds flat. It took him 12 seconds to do that. You want a Menhera wife? Ask Mafu Mafu how that went. Yes. Isn't this from Silence of the Lambs? No. This was a literal... She sent me pictures of this injury after it had been cleaned up by the hospital while they were changing her dressing. She sent me pictures of this. I don't have them any longer. I think they died on an old hard drive years ago. This was about 10 years ago now, and literally you could see where this guy's fingers dug so deep into her flesh that it tore the skin. It tore through the skin, it tore through the flesh underneath, it tore through the muscle, and it ripped the muscle clean off the bone in like a strip of flesh along her arm. I wonder if she has a scar from that. She probably does. She did fortunately regain the full use of her arm, but it was just a really, really horrifying, gaping, ripped hole this guy managed to do with his bare fingers. Again, bare fingers, no nails. This is why you don't have whirlwind romances. You need courtships so the flaws show through. Menhera make horrible mothers and will ruin you in every way. Yep, I definitely don't intend to... Crazy chicks are fun for a while. But I mean, that experience with that woman is why I no longer question it when, say, for example, the police end up mag dumping into people with senile dementia who go crazy in old people's homes and start grabbing knives. Because when somebody has truly lost it, the whole retard strength thing is very real. It is a very real thing. When somebody has lost it, they somehow gain access to a level of strength that is terrifying. They will rip through restraints, they will break through glass, they will do anything. And I think in that situation, the only thing you can do is shoot them and put them down. Because it's just absolutely scary what they can accomplish in those moments. Anyway, that was story time with Proctor about his the individual that he once knew who was severely hurt by a psychopath. On the bright side, like the medical hospital, the mental institution where that happened did agree to cover her medical bills completely. Yeah, my gun doesn't have anti-bear rounds for bears in Texas. The limiters will keep you from hurting yourself. Go away. It's like the mothers who hulk out to save their children. Yeah. Never underestimate retard strength. It does really scary things. Give me a second to have a drink of water, please, because my throat is starting to get just a slightly bit dry by now. Just close off some old tabs. Getting a little bit tired. Oh, we're on stream time. I think we're nearly at 3 hours, which is just about enough time to cover the last thing, the last two things on the docket, really. Their body is not weighted by self-preservation, so they exert strength that will cause tissue damage. Yeah, my first time with my mental illness, it took 5 full-grown-ass firefighters to strap me down. Me 100 labs and 5 feet tall. Yeah, I hope you've gotten better since then, definitely. Where is... Yeah, this was one of the things that I found rather amusing. Actually, let me just mute the desktop audio for a second, because this has audio that I want to check through. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Gamergate 2.0's very own version of Anita Sarkeesian, aka Alyssa Mercante. It's why I never went. It's why I would never want to take psychedelics. I need 5 gym pros in case I go Super Saiyan. I mean, you're black, so you know you've got Super Saiyan mode by default. Yeah, Kotaku, one of your writers, Alyssa Mercante, is currently harassing me and is now DMing my wife on Facebook. This is completely unacceptable behavior and way out of bounds. Reprehensible. Do you stand by this type of behavior? And this is Alyssa Mercante, who is currently the woman who is most angry at the whole Gamergate 2.0 thing. She's the one who said that you can't be racist towards white people. And she said, anyway, I found your wife's Facebook and asked what she thinks about the husband of her children harassing women online and laughing when they share that they've been supporting, that someone they've been supporting has been threatening to kill them for weeks. So you're Mexican, not Namekian. Yeah, I'm good now, struggle sometimes, but bad episodes are far and few. That's very good to hear. I'm very glad that people, again, are able to improve themselves via all this. Ow, my neck. Oh, good. A bunch more stuff on indie inviting and seething V-tweeters, literally since I've been tweeting. Do Mexicans get the Namekian pass? I'm not green, Troy, life is easy. But I think this is a great example of the blatant hypocrisy in the games media. in that they see nothing wrong whatsoever with trying to reach into other people's lives and ruin their lives. They want to break up families, they want to destroy people's careers. But you say anything naughty about them, oh my, you're suddenly a serial harasser, and you should definitely have your muesli taken away, boy. It depresses me so much because when I was covering just a little bit of like Gamergate 2.0 stuff earlier, we were going through the profiles of some of the people like Alyssa Mercante and also that idiot who started the pogrom against the guy who had the Sweet Baby Inc. Exposed Steam list. And they're all such desperately mediocre people. I don't know why society enables so mediocre people. These are people that have no children, they have no families, they have nothing, they hate their jobs. Like Alyssa Mercante unambiguously hates video games. She has made this very clear, and yet she is ostensibly a video games journalist. And the other guy just hated gamers as well, who was on a Sweet Baby Inc. They despise the very craft that they have invested so much time and energy into being a part of. Oh no, they have not yet achieved mediocrity. I was saying this actually to Kirsha just yesterday, that I feel as if, although I've kind of started my career very late in life, I'm 30 and I'm only just really starting to push myself in terms of career and personal learning. I feel as if I'm surrounded by a world that is desperately trying to embrace hopelessness and mediocrity. And by literally doing nothing, my skills and qualifications as a human being continue to grow in value, because everybody else seems to be dedicated to shrinking their own personal value. She needs to get back to work. Those Overwatch guides are not going to write themselves. Envy Proctor. They envy people who are happy and envy people who have managed to have a career that they actually have some fulfillment in. I agree. That's not a bad take at all. I feel as if when I actually do manage to get some decent qualifications under my belt for whatever I end up pursuing, I'm really going to take off. I'm really going to make an impact on the world. Not because I'm an exceptional person, but simply because regular people are becoming so rare and so uncelebrated. And I'm really, really sick and tired of that. I don't intend to be a mediocre person in my life. I never do. I intend to be as good of a person as I can feasibly be under the reasonable circumstances. Now, we're going to go into a bit of a palate cleanser after all of this. Because you might have noticed on the thumbnail, there was a certain spread their proctosy far and wide all across the land. You know, it's very funny, Monarchical Foreigner, we would mention that because, yes, there are... I find this, let's start with this. Let's start with this. We have Eerie up here. Now, notice that I've underlined this. Also, Proctor, Mr. Vector owner, Kirsha Admira is a personal friend of mine. Should I tell him to look for you and drag you to a gym and make you not a twink anymore? I'm literally exercising a whole ton at the moment. It's very funny you might mention that. I know his career is milk. What's that? I don't get that reference, sorry. So, Eerie up here says, one time I was so stressed, my friend gave me a packed vibrator. I opened it, plugged it in, and turned it on. And that had to be an assassination. It was like a bomb. Sparks out that exploded, ash all over me. I called her and she said, oh yeah, I forgot to say it's used. Who the hell gives their friends their sex toys? May 6th, the day of the kildo. And then Kirsche down below, she says, my Hitachi just exploded. I picked it up, it go boom. I got a few sparks on me and it kind of burned, but nothing major. All the power in my bedroom is dead at the moment, though. DEI really does ruin everything. Sharing is... Shut up. Shut up. No, I do not want to think about women sharing their sex toys. Thank you very much. But yes, this very much brings me to the last thing of this this wonderful stream that has covered such just wonderful and lovely topics so far. Metro, is your masturbation sustainable? How to have greener orgasms? Since it's World Environment Day, what better time is there to shrink your carbon footprint, the carbon footprint of your self-pleasure? Yes, my dear friends, I sadly have to say, even masturbation has an environmental impact, we're sad to say. Shower heads are a very popular self-pleasure aid for people with clits. Not women. Note that I'm sorry, I'm messing around with my microphone boob a lot. Note what they say here. They don't say women. They say people with clits. With 22.9% saying they use its steady stream of water to masturbate. But alas, the fallout of this is that 300 million litres of water are wasted on female masturbation every year. To give you a better picture, it amounts to around 121 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water down the drain every 12 months. That's an awful lot of lady pleasuring. Yes. Squirt on your plants. The only time I'm environmentally conscious about my orgasm is when I can't find where my Harvest Asahara, I just realized, yes, you're in my chat. Why am I talking about masturbation and orgasms while literally the largest coomer in all of VTubing is in my chat? In a bid to reduce this staggering figure, Love Not War, a company that makes a range of luxury, eco-friendly sex toys out of recycled aluminium cans, is offering 20% off their modular sex toys to encourage people to end their self-love affair with their showerhead. Instead, the brand wants you to swap to a more eco-friendly showerhead sex toy to reduce wasted water. It's also partnered with advertising agency Dude: London to create campaign videos designed to get you to break up with your showerhead. Will Ransacombe, CEO and co-founder of Love Not War, said, "When it comes to sex, we know that wetter is better. It's better for us anyway. But perhaps it's not better when it comes to our planet. Our primary focus is on pleasure, but orgasms shouldn't cost the earth. We want to encourage people to break up with your showerhead and switch to more sustainable options for self-love. We're keen for people to know that by making the decision to break up with their showerheads and switch to a Love Not War toy, they can save water and ultimately reduce their environmental impact, all while enjoying an orgasm. Save the planet, one orgasm at a time." The brands Laska and GRA heads start from £34.99, a small price to pay for a long-term sustainable swap, and a pleasurable one at that. This new campaign comes hot off the heels of the launch of the Womanizer Wave, the first showerhead designed to be used as a sex toy. But eco-conscious users need not despair. The toy's eco-smart tech uses 60% less water than conventional showerheads, so fans of more indulgent showers don't have to worry. And with a 2-in-1 pleasure stimulation, with a water massage clitoral stimulator, it's great for solo sessions or partner play. So, with the environment on our minds today, it's a perfect time to make the steamy showerhead switch, both for the planet and for personal pleasure. Womanizer Wave sounds like a sex-changing ray gun. Proctor, I hope you get accepted into Nijisanshi. It looks like a knockoff of something Japan would make. Hey, we got some ASMR in here. I just got here, Proctor, my brother in Christ, what? Welcome. These are the people who have marriage-themed birthday parties instead of having actual marriages. I keep forgetting guys don't have well water. We have well water, actually. If you don't want to waste water, just use lube and a dildo FS. When it comes to our planet, you will drive wank and you will be happy. Why would you want Dr. Pepper's Suppy Slip? Well, maybe if men could find the clip, we can save the water. Not gonna lie, this sounds like an ad for a scam product that shows up at 3 a.m. Oh dear. What was the thing that I wanted to see? There was a thing that I wanted to look at. Pleasure brand encourages people to swap shower heads with sustainable satisfaction. Do I want to look at this? I don't think there's an audio version of this.
Wait, stop. Don't leave me. How could she do this to me? After all the orgasms I gave her.
Years of relationship down the drain.
And for a toy? She left me for a f***ing sex toy?
She still gets naked in front of me every day. She is driving me crazy.
I'm not crying. It's just a leak. Okay, I'm crying.
I'm not going to show that too much on screen. British showerheads get cocked. Trusting people to be able to change showerheads, good one. He can't get into Nijisanji, he's Anglo-Irish. The only way you get more white is if the outer head protease. Just use a bulldog like a normal person. Oh dear. Oh, I needed that palate cleanser. I very much needed that palate cleanser after all the political nonsense and stuff we've been going through today. I'm kind of sad that that Denna isn't here. I would love to hear her commentary on all of this. And now we just go over to the Discord, and like Mexifish here is literally saying, part of me wants to have another baby. I start talking about sex toys on stream, and then I see, and then you immediately post about wanting another baby. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. It's creepy. Get out of my head. Show Kirsha the shower heads going into the cock chair. Oh dear. I don't know. I don't know. We're now at 3 hours. We're at 3 hours and 3 minutes exactly. So, I think that here is about where we stop. Proctor just radiating pure sex tonight, getting the ladies all in a breeding mood at a distance. I do want to have children. So, you know, they're I want to have children with the right woman, but yeah, I'm just putting it out there. I definitely want to have children. I do not. I intend to. I want to have children purely to make Klaus Schwab very angry. Kirsche will keep it on tap forever. Yes, thank you also all for putting up with me. Once again, I'm very grateful that people are willing to actually listen to my political diatribes and stuff. Well, I don't call them political diatribes, my moral diatribes, because, again, two cheeks of the same arse. I don't endorse either side. You are running out of time to have kids. I'm 32. Well, I'm 31. I'm 32 this year. So I've still got plenty of time, mate. I mean, men still stay fertile a hell of a lot longer than women do, sadly. So that's not going to be a problem for me. It's if there were certain women that I wanted as a potential wife who were getting older, then that's a problem. But you know, I'm perfectly fine. I can wait. Thank you for the stream. Yes, thank you very much, Muffy Graves, as well. Thank you also, Dicato, for coming here. I will see you all on Monday, and hopefully Kirsche will be back on Friday as well, so I will be able to watch her instead of simply cry and wail and be miserable. Good night, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. And remember, be environmentally conscious about your orgasms. Good night.